Someone by the name of Lucy Connolly is currently facing prison time for a Facebook post that was critical of migrants.
So Lucy Connolly called for hotels housing asylum seekers to be torched to the ground.
I'm making a simple observation.
That is true. Charlie almost exclusively makes simple observations.
The women of the West are miserable. And they're miserable for a reason, because we've told them to suppress how they are made by God and pursue something else.
That's crazy. Hey, have you ever asked women like why they're depressed?
And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction.
His argument is that since Israel got attacked, they can literally genocide the entirety of like the Gazan population. What happened to caring about kids?
Why do you think abortion's wrong specifically?
Well, you agree murder is wrong?
You are a culture warrior. I believe when everything is done, Mr. Kirk, people will see you and the people you supported as corrupt, as selling the country out to the lowest bidder, and of doing irreparable damage to a country I'm sure we all deep down love.
The difference,
you will have to reckon with that.
Difference
Mr. Kirk
is when...
Guys, time to turn off the drama. Turning on the serious face right now, okay? I'm actually curious about this. I saw a clip of this on the old TikTok social media. So I want to watch it. It's Charlie Kirk versus a bunch of Cambridge students. It says 400, but I'm assuming he only talks like 5 of them. Or else that would just take, what is that, like 30 seconds a person? That'd be wild. So let's go.
Thank you. Can we settle down? Okay, thank you. Can we settle down, please? We're going to move on to our questions. Our first question is from Zinaisha Zubair from Sydney, Sussex.
Okay.
Come on, ask a question.
Yeah, clap for her. Clap for her, guys. You have to. It's 2025. You have to clap for anybody that's wearing that hat. I'm just being silly. Like, I don't know why. I'm not trying to like dog whistle that I don't like Muslim people or something. Her hat's very nice.
Remember, you have the right of response.
I have quite a simple question for you. Now, I know you've debated Dean Withers on Jubilee before. I was wondering why you now refuse to engage with further debate with him.
That's a great question, actually. I like this a lot because I think it's something that should be answered at least, even if he's like, oh, you know what, I don't want to do it. I built my brand, and he isn't trying to go to the right channels. I don't feel like he's earned his stuff enough to get a conversation with me, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Wait, hold on. First of all, he's coming on my show this summer, and let me get this straight. I flew 5,000 miles across the world to have you ask why I'm not going to debate a left-wing YouTuber.
I feel like it's all right for him to get her to ask that question, but I don't think it gets so defensive.
Well, I mean, he continuously tries to get your attention at your campus.
Again,
you just ignore him.
I've debated him twice in the last calendar year. He's coming on my show this summer. Let me be clear. I came to Cambridge to have you ask me.
Well, I mean, that's the question is like, why is he going on your show? Is he going on your show because like there was an outcry after you kept dodging him, or was that already planned beforehand? You know, I just don't understand why you're getting so offended by the question. It seems like really disproportionate and performative.
I mean, you talk about freedom. I'm just using my freedom of speech to ask you a simple question. You seem to be dodging it for some reason.
No, I've debated him twice in the last year, and he's coming on this summer for a long-form discussion. But is this what I can expect?
Yeah, he's making videos about you avoiding him on your campus debates.
Right. So let me tell
you. Just relax. It's not that deep. You don't have to fucking like cry about it, dude.
How this works. I do a campus event like at Texas A&M University. I rent it out. I'm there for 3 hours. He shows up demanding to come up to the mic immediately, cutting in line of other students. It's not Joe Biden's America anymore. We can just cut in line.
Ooh, it's not Joe Biden's America, dude. You can't cut in line. You can't get health care. We're fucked. It's not gonna own it, dude.
Get whatever you want. So therefore,
true, dude.
Say, excuse me, Dean, we'll talk another time. He makes this YouTube video as if I'm scared to debate him, even though I debated him twice in the last year. Does that suffice?
Well, is it like a one-on-one debate? I mean, you did like a Jubilee debate. What's the second debate that he did with him?
Sufficiently answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know why. Listen, it's very strange that he got so defensive. If he was just like, listen, we have a scheduled debate. I feel like he was being an entitled little brat, and so I didn't want to give him the time of day. I would have actually respected the fuck out of that answer. But instead, he got like super defensive over a fucking question. It's just very childish. It's like those are the moments where I would have been like, oh, you know what? I respect that. Hey, I feel like he was being kind of an entitled brat in his asking of a conversation with me. So I dodged him because I thought it was just like shitty. And I'm not going to set a precedent that you can do that to me and you can get whatever you want. Oh, I respect the hell out of that, Charlie. Instead, you're fucking yelling at this woman. It's very bizarre. Talk about Joe Biden's America. It's incredible. Hey, it's not Joe Biden's America, guys. You can't cut the line. You can't get get arrested anymore for not paying your taxes. Trump's just going to exonerate you, like the fucking whatever weirdo family that dodged their taxes, and he just the fucking what the hell is it called? Pardoned them, which is insane. Was like that gay guy married to a woman, you know, typical Christian.
Right, so thank you for coming, Charlie. My question to you, I mean, I'm a medical student, and
Nice.
I'm going
I
to
like
throw out
that.
the big A word. I know you get asked about it a lot, but I want to hear from you what your opinion is on abortion.
All right.
Life begins at conception.
That's crazy. Yeah, but I mean, that's not a conversation about where life begins. It's a conversation about when humanity begins, right? We know it's a lie, but do we like philosophically assign humanity to it? The answer is usually no. So I'm a first term guy. You know, abort at the first term, second or third, depending on the severity. You know what I mean? Like if it's gonna have like an issue. I understand not wanting to. You know what I mean? Or in some other's life or something. I can get it. I get it.
But about abortion specifically, why do you think abortion's wrong specifically?
Well, you agree murder is wrong.
I agree.
Okay,
Okay,
but abortion's not murder. Murder is like an illegal killing, so technically, but.
so this is where we get to the question, right? Because what is it about murder you say is wrong? Like,
Well, like, listen, I don't really want to hear conservatives bitch about fucking murder and death and all this other stuff because it's so childish, right? It's like the most childish shit in the entire world. Oh, abortion is wrong. It's murder. People are dying. Okay, like those are people you think they're dying. Great. Okay, but you guys are literally cutting healthcare for people on Medicare and Medicaid so that you can give tax cuts to billionaires. That's gonna kill plenty of people. Well, that's not technically murder. We're just okay. You're telling me rich people are able to weaponize technology to make as much money as possible and fire as many people as possible, put people out of a bunch of jobs, and then say, oh, by the way, you're fucked. We're just going to let you go and die off. Oh, okay. Like, that's not murder. But I guess an abortion of somebody who's not even a person because they don't have anything going on. They're literally just a little fucking bean. That's murder. That death is very valid. And of course, until it's birthed. Of course, until it's birthed. Once it's birthed, then we stop caring about it again. We don't really give a fuck. We just want it to be born. I feel like the only reason that modern conservatives care so much about abortion is because they just want white babies to be born and not aborted. I think that's pretty much the entire thing because none of they're completely like illogical. There's no logical consistency on anything that they fucking say at this point.
why is murder wrong?
Well, because it's a human being, not just because it has consciousness or because it's of a certain age, because it's a human.
Well, what is it that gives human being this moral worth?
Not its consciousnness necessarily.
I didn't say it's
Well, I
conscious.
mean, it gives. I mean, I would say human beings have moral worth because they're humans, right? I don't think this is the argument to go down, but okay.
I know that I can imagine it's because it is a human being because it has a soul.
And what is
When
this?
does this? Are you telling me that when I jizz in a woman, a fucking soul is I'm ejaculating a soul into a fucking my wife? That's fucking insane. Oh my god, how many souls have I shot into my socks? That's fucking insane.
Soul? Where does this come from? This idea that it's
Exactly. I mean, again, the Greeks postulated that it is the entirety of your being. Okay, you guys can laugh. I mean, it's true. I mean, every civilization has had a different belief, but
That's crazy. You know, if Charlie Kirk can prove to me that there's a soul, that'd be fucking awesome. There's no problem with that then, buddy. Prove to me that there's a soul, though. Oh,
upon ethical monotheism,
not just a Kia Soul. Pretty solid car, by the way. I'm gonna die here.
which is the creed of the West and what the birth certificate of my country articulates, is that every human being is more than just matter, it's more than just a clump of cells, but it also has an
And
invisible
why are you trying to fucking cut people's healthcare, bud? Why are you part of the party that doesn't want people to have healthcare?
element to you that will live beyond you.
fine. So, I mean, can you say that comes from the Bible, or where else do you get that from?
Ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West.
Fuck me.
And again, the Declaration of Independence meant
What is ethical monotheism? What that means here? Are you saying like ethical religious perspective, but it has to be monotheistic? Ethical monotheism combines the belief in one's God with a moral framework derived from the deity. That deity, it signifies that God is not only the sole God, but also the source of ethical guidelines for human behavior. Shaping a sense of right and wrong based on a religious perspective. Yeah, I think it's really lazy to shape right and wrong based on religion. Obviously, that's fucking stupid. You're going to start thinking that gay people are invalid and people who, work on Sunday should be executed. I don't really... Okay, I think that's whatever. Okay, cool stuff, man.
mentions God 4 times. The founders were explicitly believed, not in a secular morality, but a divinely given one, of at least this idea that there is a God and you are not him. And let me ask you, what is the first
That's it. That at least the idea that there's a God and you're not him. That's what it was founded on. Yeah, I believe that. Maybe there's a God, I'm not him. That doesn't mean that we should completely orchestrate our religion or our society's rules around a religious doctrine that says gay people are wrong for the mere virtue of their existence. Also, you guys don't give a fuck about any of this. Oh, I believe in the Bible and what the Bible teaches. And Jesus would have been like the most hardcore fucking hippie socialist ever. And you guys don't acknowledge that. You guys don't care. Obviously, it's not about the teachings at all.
first stage of human development?
So the first, I mean, this is the thing, right? We can take it from the sperm being generated in the father and the oocyte being generated in the mother, right? They fuse at birth, conception, sorry. The only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse.
No, DNA is created.
DNA is not created.
DNA, no, that's not true. The DNA,
Charlie,
the DNA coding at the zygote. Hold on, time out.
Yeah, let me finish.
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Charlie,
Does
DNA...
a zygote have a unique
you have
marker?
to let me speak. You have
But answer it.
Well,
Yes.
isn't there DNA in sperm and eggs too? Wouldn't it be in there as well? No?
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Define a unique marker.
Meaning, can you differentiate the DNA coding between the mother and the zygote if you examine it under?
So I just looked it up because Charlie's going off about like DNA, zygotes, and you want to preserve the zygote because there's DNA. Look at how much this. Yes, semen contains DNA. There's so much DNA in my cum. It's fucking ridiculous.
A deoxyribonucleic acid analysis, can you?
Only purely because the addition comes from the father.
Oh, so it is something different.
Charlie, DNA is not created. DNA is not created. You have the father has his own genome, the mother has her own genome. They fuse. This is why you have the same characteristics, similar ones to your mother, similar ones to your father. That's why you have similar characteristics to your siblings. DNA is not created, right? So when you ask me where does a human being come from, I can say to you it starts at conception, but all conception is these two cells joining, right? But these two cells were created, the mother cells were created long before, they were created when she was a fetus. So there's none of this DNA being produced, right? So we can't establish, the only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse. Now this idea that means that for some reason, suddenly that moral worth comes in, but it wasn't there before when you had these two cells who had half the DNA, but suddenly there's a
Correct,
bit of a
yes,
switch.
something magical happens at that.
It's not magical, Charlie, we know about this.
Well, hold on.
Something magical happens. I just find it so weird. Something magical happens? What the fuck? Why is it that you can believe something magical will happen, but if a trans person's like, hey, I was born in the wrong body, you're like, nope, that's not realistic. That's actually not a fact. By the way, something magical happens when you fuck a girl. My penis explodes. Something magical just happened. Holy fuck. It's like, dude, come on, be consistent.
Hold on.
Charlie.
Time out. Hold on.
Charlie, I promise you, I'm not trying to score points. I'm not trying to score points on you. This is
We
genuine.
call it the miracle of life for a reason. We've not been able to yet replicate human life
I don't call it.
development outside of the womb.
We call it
I'm pretty sure we have artificial womb technology. What are you talking about? And we're getting closer every day. Once we can do that, are you going to denounce God?
the miracle of life because yes, it's something beautiful. The ability to
exactly.
form a new.
Magical.
It's not. You say magical is it? Oh, it's beautiful. It's an incredible thing that happens. Of course.
I mean, I think it's like a human phenomenon. It's impressive, but magical and beautiful. I don't know. Have you ever seen a head come out of a pussy? Shit, let me tell you something, Charlie. It's fucking crazy. When I was like 14 years old, I got curious and I started watching that kind of stuff, and I had so many complicated feelings. They actually, as a child, in my preteen age, they had to kick me out of the fucking. They had to kick me out of the delivery room. It was fucking horrible. It was insane.
But it's not incredible in the sense we don't know what's going on. There's no new DNA being coming out of nowhere.
Hold on, but time out.
Hey, let me tell you, there's plenty of new DNA coming out of my fucking penis. At least when I was watching all those girls giving birth. No, I'm just kidding.
Isn't there a separate DNA though than the mother? Like,
Yes, from the father.
okay, yes, but it's not the father's DNA either. A new
Maybe it's the Holy Spirit's DNA, huh? What do you guys think about that? Huh? That's a little religious thing for you. That's fun.
coding is created.
Charlie-
You are a blend of the two. And so when did your life begin?
Okay, so
When did your
my
life
life.
When I met my wife. I love my wife. I love my wife.
I mean, again, this comes from what you define as where life starts. You can say life starts at conception, but I'm telling you, I believe that's just an arbitrary point, right? That's just the moment these two cells fuse. Now, you say about this mother thing. So the way DNA is arranged in a cell is it's arranged in chromosomes. Chromosomes are paired up, so you have one from the mother, one from the father, typically.
It doesn't really matter what you say. He's not going to change his mind, but...
in a healthy individual, right? Now, you can take those maternal chromosomes out and you can find that this is who the person's mother is, and you can do the same with the father. Now, the reason you are different to your mother and father is because some of those chromosomes express genes that are different from each other, and so those genes interact, and that's what gives rise to you, right? But there's no space for any kind of moral framework to come into that until you consider that a human being is capable of consciousness and of suffering. But if you take that out of the equation, the fact that these two DNA, whatever they call molecules, right? These two DNA molecules are fusing. That does not suddenly flip a switch that attributes moral worth to that individual.
Sure, I agree with that. Whoa!
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to score points.
Then
I'm trying to
by
understand.
what moral standard do you believe that?
I believe that if an individual is capable of suffering, then it's wrong. Now, can I explain my opinion on abortion?
I guess that makes sense.
Just so you can understand. I would agree, as many reasonable people would, that at 9 months, it's unreasonable to expect someone to get an abortion, right? Unless you have some
for sure.
extreme circumstances. But for an elective abortion seems a bit radical to me. But it also seems radical to say that a woman
Oh, you think it's cool? Radical.
who has just, the cells have just fused, to deny her of an abortion also seems wrong to me. Because that zygote is not capable of suffering, as far as we know.
So by what moral standard? Is that just your opinion? Where did you get that moral standard
I
from?
mean, I think it's complicated. It's a mixture of different things, right? Like, I think that the biggest thing is like, hey, this creature that was just created isn't even at the point where it has humanity, and one of those reasons is because it can't have any critical thought, and it can't suffer or feel pain or have anything like this. It has no human experiences, so therefore it is not human, right? I think that's the fundamental conversation here, is that if it does not have a human experience, it is not human. I think that's the point that he's trying to make.
Because suffering is a bad thing. We all know suffering is a bad thing. That's an objective fact, right?
Hold on. So you do believe in objective morality.
I believe that suffering is an objectively negative
So if you
feeling.
can't feel it, is it okay?
What do you
Well, yeah, but what about people who lost feelings in their legs because they're diabetic, right? Is that where we're going to go?
mean if you
You can't feel the pain, is it okay to inflict the pain?
in the sense that if no one's suffering from it, if you have a scenario where nobody is suffering from something, then yes, of course. There's no
I think that his answer should have been like compounded with the other factors. Yes.
something is only a moral question if it affects someone's well-being.
Well, he's going to say killing it's going to affect its well-being, so it's not going to. He's going to just go with that argument.
So let me just make sure I understand this correctly. That if it doesn't affect their well-being, so dementia patients that don't know who they are or where they're from, can we execute dementia patients because they're confused about their well-being?
Maybe we should. I'm not sure if you use the word execute. I don't know. Maybe we should consider euthanasia for dementia patients. I don't know. I feel like at that point I may want to be euthanized. And I'm not trying to be an asshole or whatever. I think that we should develop technologies. And by the way, I'm not saying everybody should do this, but this, I got you. Do you think dementia patients should be, maybe, man, I feel like I would personally be okay with maybe being euthanized if I had dementia. And you should not be forced to make that perspective, but like, that's horrible. That sounds like it's horrible for me. It's horrible for my family, and they won't even remember me in my best and my prime, my Optimus Prime. They'll remember me as somebody who's like just kind of like a fractured version of myself. So like, maybe we should be able to euthanize people. But I mean, okay. But he uses the word execute because he's a cool guy.
Can you imagine a scenario?
Or Alzheimer's patients.
Charlie,
Alzheimer's patients don't
I'd say the same thing.
really know much about anything. Can we schedule them for execution because
Same with the Trump supporters, am I right, guys?
they can't technically suffer?
I'll respond. So, can you imagine a scenario where we lived in a society where we killed people when they suffered from dementia, were incapable of suffering, and we killed them, right? It's not a scenario that involves an absence of suffering. There's still suffering involved. Imagine you grow up thinking, my dad could be killed at any moment because he's going to get dementia. Imagine living your life thinking, I could get dementia and suddenly I'd be killed by my state.
Imagine a world where you slaughter 1 million babies every year in America.
Whoa! I slaughter 1 million babies just out of my balls a day, Charlie. Get the fuck out of here, bud. Imagine a world where 1 million babies fucking starve to death because they don't have access to decent food or fucking healthcare, which you guys are trying to cut from a bunch of fucking kids. What are you talking about? Stop pretending you give a fuck about this. What do you mean? What the hell?
Charlie, it's not slaughter. That's the problem.
Hold on. It's a forcible removal from the umbilical cord of another human life. Again, we have clarity but not agreement. Biologically, you know that your entire coding began at conception. Your coding, your uniqueness.
That's what I'm denying. I disagree with that.
Okay, when those two cells fused together.
I feel like you shouldn't really engage with the argument when it comes to abortion with Charlie Kirk. I mean, this other guy brought it up, but just like conservatives do not care about death. They don't give a fuck. What are we talking about here? Stop pretending that they do. The second that you're fucking born, conservatives are ready to cut you off. They don't give a fuck about children dying at all. They don't care about healthcare for children. Stop fucking pretending that they do. Stop giving a fuck about when they're saying this shit.
Together to use your terminology.
Yes.
That is where the process of
scientifically accepted terminology.
In the interest of time, can we bring this question to a
the
close?
process of human development
Yeah, shut the
objectively
fuck
begins
up.
at that moment. Therefore, those human beings are deserving of human rights. We keep going, or do you want to?
No, thank you. Yeah, you can finish.
The process of development begins from the moment the sperm is being generated in the father, the moment the eggs are being generated in the mother. To say that suddenly the moral worth switches on when they fuse doesn't make any sense. That's just a point you've taken.
It makes perfect sense because that is when your journey as a human being. When the sperm and egg were separate, you were not yet a fused human being. You were not created uniquely.
DNA
in
existed.
image.
Your DNA existed. I thought.
Well, no, the parts of your DNA existed. Your DNA did not exist. It's like saying that we have a full car just because we have all the parts. It was not yet put together until conception happens and the zygote was formed.
That's what I say about my Legos.
Thank you. I think we have to
Can we
get
move on to the next
Thank you very
question,
much.
please? Thank you.
You know about Patriot Mobile and what they stand for. I've
Whoa,
talked to you
Charlie, you scared me with this plug.
about their commitment to family, faith, and freedom. But have you made the switch yet? You'll get exceptional nationwide coverage on America's
Charlie, what's up with this fucking horrible audio, bud? Can't you afford something better?
best networks without sacrificing your values. Get unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, and even a backup line on your phone. Patriot can
Why
do
is
it
this so intense? What the fuck? It's just a phone.
all. Switching is easy. Keep your number, your phone, or get a new one. Go to patriotmobile.com/Kirk25 or call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code Kirk25 for a free month of service.
Was that AI?
So first of all, my first question, or my only question is, you've advocated and applauded the reducing and removing of public funding for universities on the grounds they promote ideological biases. Given that universities play a critical role in driving national innovation, research, and upward mobility, especially through federally funded grants, how do you reconcile this position with the broader societal value that higher education institutes offer?
Well, they can, but in Harvard's case, for example, who's getting their funding pulled, they have a $50 billion endowment. Just so we are clear, in pounds, that would be like what, 42 billion, 45 billion? I mean, I'm trying to learn the conversion rate here. I mean, it's an extraordinary amount of money. They can either use their endowments to fund it, and if you have certain behavior and certain practices, then you should not get federal funding. Harvard is in direct violation of the United States Supreme Court fair admissions case, which says you cannot discriminate people based on the color of their skin. Go ahead.
But is
Oh, is that what? How would they discriminate against? Excuse me. How are they discriminated against people based on the color of their skin? Is that because they're letting in like less white people and Asian people or something? Is that what he's referring to? Because of like affirmative action policies? Okay. I guess I'm not like super. I don't have a super strong opinion on this. I don't really think I care that much about Harvard.
isn't the whole point of it? You can't use endowments like that. The point of
They can.
the point of an endowment is to manage a fund through perpetuity. Cambridge has an endowment, and that endowment allows professorships to be funded to allow for research into sciences. That's the whole point of an endowment.
Hold on. You just said it funds research into sciences. That's what they should do with their monstrosity of an endowment.
Yeah, but the endowment is
The interest alone on their endowment could fund the entire research and development budget of most Ivy League schools. They have a $50 billion endowment. Even like a podunk money manager in America can earn a 7 to 10% investment in the markets the last couple of years. That's $5 billion of returns that endowment could then reinvest in whatever they want. Instead, Harvard has become a hedge fund with a radical school attached.
I'm not understanding. So they're valued at $50 billion. I'm not understanding what he's talking about. Harvard University Endowment is a significant financial asset, currently valued at $50 billion. It is the largest academic endowment in the world. I don't really know what an endowment is. Give me a second. So an endowment is a donation of assets, usually cash or investments, given to a nonprofit or gains, what? With the goal of providing long-term financial support? Is he saying that they're just getting money? Is that the money they're getting from the federal government? Is that what he's saying? Oh, so these are, so there are 14,600 different endowments that are being managed, and all of them apparently are, their money that's given is given with a specific rule set to it, where you can't just do whatever you want with it. So 70% of the endowments annual distribution is donor directed to specific programs, departments, or purposes. Okay, so what's so interesting is it sounds like the endowment, they have a lot of money, but they can't do whatever they want with it because they're donations that are set for specific things, even if it's not necessarily practical for that thing to get help, right? Like in cancer terms, like breast cancer is super well funded, but maybe like fucking ball sack cancer isn't as much. I don't know if that second part is true. And what's so funny about this is that Charlie's like, oh, they just use that endowment for the stat. It's because I can't speak today. It's because it's a donation that has specific terms attached to it, so you can't do whatever you want, which shows the biggest flaw in our fundamental donation system, which is why we need a more robust tax flow, because donating money to a thing isn't necessarily productive because it doesn't necessarily go to the thing that actually needs to go to. So that's kind of silly.
And I think that's very wrong for U.S. taxpayers to continue to subsidize.
But it's not just Harvard. You've called on colleges being a scam. You've constantly attacked higher education institutes. You've attacked liberal arts as a scam.
Yeah, I mean, that does call into question his motivation for saying Harvard shouldn't get the subsidies.
For example, like a lot of conservatives, Peter Thiel studied philosophy at Stanford. Ronald Reagan studied sociology. A lot of them did study liberal
back then it wasn't bad.
arts, and you keep undermining these august institutions, which have provided a lot for society. Like society's backbones have been universities and higher learning institutes, and yet you keep attacking them.
Well, they used to be largely, but again, I don't want to speak too much about this country, but In America, they don't represent fundamental American values. You know, Peter Thiel, after he graduated Stanford, wrote an entire book criticizing college and then paying people not to go to college. So Peter Thiel, who spoke at this very school, and you guys had a great conversation with him, do you know that he believes college is such a scam? He would pay people $100,000 a year for 20 years straight not to go to college. So not exactly a good argument in your favor. Peter
I don't understand, because this guy came to the college. That means that they can't criticize your idea that college is a scam, which it's not in general. I don't understand.
Thiel, who got a philosophy degree, made billions of dollars, and has now forked over tens of millions of dollars for people not to go to U.S. universities and colleges.
Yeah, but it's not just Peter Thiel.
I know, but you mentioned him, I didn't. But to complete the point is that...
Thomas went to, did liberal arts.
Look, in America, there are far too many people going to college. We need people to become welders,
Are they?
electricians, people that work with their hands. There is a major trade deficit problem in
Yeah, there is.
the United States.
There is a huge trade deficit problem. And what are conservatives doing about it? Nothing. And this was what drives me nuts. We decided to do like ridiculous, reckless tariffs that completely destabilized our economy for how long? Because we needed to bring manufacturing jobs back. But not a single conservative has actually brought up, and I mean like not a single conservative politician has brought up a meaningful way of getting young people into trades. They don't care about building jobs. It is never about that. It was never about making jobs. Manufacturing jobs in America, like they're disappearing for a reason. And even if we brought them back, they're going to be automated away. But like, if you actually cared about jobs now, within the next year or two, you would make it free for kids to go get fucking trade jobs, and you would be pushing them. They're not trying to do that. There's no actual initiative to try to get people employed. It's just like pissing. It's just, I don't even know what the fuck it is. Just like ramming your cock into like the throats of everybody else for absolutely no productive reason in any meaningful capacity.
11 million well-paying jobs that we cannot find enough labor for, and instead we have
There's
a lot of
more than that.
people going to university to go study North African lesbian poetry.
Okay, that's not like a thing happening, but okay.
Sound good, but it doesn't necessarily either development the content, the character, or the development of the soul, and B, it does not necessarily also give you the skills necessary. Some college is good
So
for
then where's your actual like program incentivizing that? Like that's not happening in the Trump administration either. So like this is obviously just a virtue signal.
I'm a big proponent of Hillsdale College.
Guys, can you please be quiet?
I believe Hillsdale College is America's greatest college, and I'm a big proponent of that. But I would ask a question. In your own words, what do you believe the purpose of college is?
It's critical
Usually to educate yourself so that you can become a more productive member of society. So
engagement. But coming back to your point on lesbian poetry or whatever.
North African lesbian poetry.
North African lesbian poetry. So in the morning, I actually had a lecture on development policy. And one of the key authors on sort of development economics is Nussbaum, who talks about how liberal arts sort of engages you critically. And one could argue, even North African lesbian poetry, I don't think that's a degree, I think that's just a module within a degree,
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like a slam dunk that Charlie feels like, you just want to do some stupid this. It's a whole thing. It's like the whole meme. Like there are people going to school for dumb shit, but we're not trying to redirect them. We're just sitting here bitching and moaning about stuff instead of doing that. I understand that. Like the fact that like your degree, they force you to overbloat your degree to extract money from you, doing a bunch of programs that you don't need or a bunch of shit that you don't need, just so they can get more money out of you. I agree with that. But again, conservatives aren't saying that. Conservatives aren't saying we need to fix the school system. Stop making kids take an extra 10 classes that are irrelevant so that you can make more money from them, or stop charging them so much, or we need to get kids directed into this job. We need more trades. You know, they don't do anything meaningful. They don't actually advocate for programs to make you do that. They just complain about it. And it's not because they care. It's because they just want to complain about it. That's it. That's all it is.
That makes you.
The fact you don't know shows how rotten to the core universities have become.
You're taking one example and telling conservatives and hordes of young people that college is a scam. College isn't a scam. I mean, I took my mum down to a pub just down the road where Watson and Crick announced DNA. College.
Guys, okay, wait one second.
If college is a scam, then DNA wouldn't have been discovered. With cancer research.
Yes, hold on a second. Yes, you're right. At this specific university, you guys split the atom. You had Sir Isaac Newton. You had some of the greatest minds of the West. I don't know about what's happening here, and I'm not going to criticize it. But at most colleges in the West, they've gone away from places of inquiry and appreciation of what is good and what is beautiful, and into this incessant oppression Olympics of trying to deconstruct the core canon that is our birth certificate. I don't know if that's happening here. It's certainly...
That's not true, though.
In America, it is objectively true, okay?
That isn't true.
Okay, no, first of all, they removed Western civilization as a core course in Stanford in the 1990s. They tried to bring it back with petitions, and the university said, no, teaching Western civilization is racist. Shakespeare is not taught. It may...
What? It's racist? What?
Let me finish. Shakespeare is not taught at major universities across America because it's deemed as racist. I talked to some students earlier in the English department, and they said, hey, I'm studying Shakespeare. I said, that's refreshing because in a lot of U.S. schools, they don't teach Shakespeare because he's called racist. You would be
I feel like, is this even true? I'm not seeing a single thing that says that they are getting rid of Shakespeare because it's racist. I think, what is he referring to? I found one article from something called Outkick. I mean, maybe some of the languages in the books are a little iffy. Is that what it is? Like, I don't understand. Is there the N word in a book? I've never seen people be like, oh my God, he's so racist. But if there's some language in there, they don't teach it anymore. Okay. What the fuck is he talking about?
be surprised at how wretched to the core some of these colleges have become in America.
If you
what colleges is he talking about in any capacity?
look at the Global Innovation Index, America, which is predominantly, a lot of their majors are in humanities and liberal arts, they're number 2 on the Global Innovation Index. China is somewhere near 13. If you look at every metric, a Fortune 1000 CEOs, 40% did humanities and liberal arts. There is a value in liberal arts.
You're going to have to, right? Because it's like the first class.
Yet you're criticizing
Yes,
it.
and I'm going to keep on criticizing it. Also, the vast majority of liberal arts graduates do not respect freedom of speech. That is an empirical poll.
What? What?
I keep on criticizing it. Also, the vast majority of liberal arts graduates do not respect freedom of speech. That is an empirical poll.
That's an empirical poll? Where?
Increasingly do not have reverence or gratitude for the United States of America.
Wait, what poll are we referring to? I can't find anything that he's referring to. This is like has to be another talking point. They don't support freedom of speech? What are you talking about?
Not respect freedom of speech. That is an empirical poll. They increasingly do not have reverence or gratitude for the United States of America. They don't.
Why would they? I mean, I'm 35. I grew up in the fucking Boy Scouts. I love America. It's the greatest country in the entire world, according to me. According to the way I was raised and according to what I believe, because the country's worked for me. But when you have a lot of young people, the country's not working for them. Why the fuck would they love America? You should love America. Why? If your dad beats you, do you love that fucking person? We live in America, the richest country in the entire world, with more billionaires than anywhere else that are literally extracting resources and using technology to kill jobs so they can get more and more money. And right now we're talking about giving them more tax cuts so that we don't have health care for like 13 million people. Why the fuck do you expect anybody to give a fuck about this country? I love this country and that'll never change. But if you're fucking 19 or 20 years old and you didn't grow up in a better time with the country, why the fuck would you love this place? This place sucks. This place sucks for you. If you don't have money, you should go fuck yourself in this country. That's how bad it is. It sucks here. That's why people are shooting down CEOs. They shouldn't be, but that's what's happening. You love the country. For what? Unconditionally? What the hell are you talking about? You wouldn't even love your own son if they were gay, but you want people to love this country unconditionally? Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You're an entitled fuck. Who cares if kids don't love this country? If you want kids to love the country, make the country love them first. What the fuck are you talking about?
Don't care about the core values of the U.S. Constitution. If you want to go to college, that's fine. But in our country,
Like a loser.
40% of kids that enter college do not graduate. The kids that do graduate, half of them end up getting jobs that do not require any sort of college degree. There are all these made-up degrees. In America, I know it's different than the experience you might be having here. Your tutoring system here is objectively great. I'm glad you guys have it. The class sizes in America are 400 to 500 students, sometimes per introductory course, to go hundreds of thousands.
Where are you talking about? I went to like a fucking I went to class. I went to like a community college. It wasn't that crazy. What the hell is he talking about?
Of dollars into debt, study things that don't matter, find jobs that do not exist. And so let me just make one final point, is that
Whose fault is that? Again, why aren't conservatives trying to get kids to be more likely to go into jobs? Like, why are they focusing the way that they're focusing then? Like, if you want kids to go to school, put in laws that are like, hey, we'll give you an incentive if you go to class for fucking this or that. Why don't they just do that?
of course, some people should be going to college, but generally in the United States of America, it has become a racket of debt. It has become a burden and a place where we're actually not putting
So then why aren't you fixing the problem? Why aren't conservatives trying to fix the problem? Hey, listen, you can't charge that much. You can't do that. What the fuck?
best and brightest into the job field itself to be equipped for the jobs of the future. Instead, we have a lot of baristas at Starbucks with philosophy degrees.
You also mentioned
What? Okay.
indoctrination. As per the Oxford Dictionary's definition of indoctrination, it means that you take a belief and you can't critically observe that belief. Turning Point USA has over 30,000 chapters, 3,000 chapters across US universities. So are you arguing that students, including conservatives, lack the critical thinking skills to sort of decide political ideologies, political beliefs, that they're so dumbfounded that they can't decide for themselves what's right and what's wrong, and that your whole premise is on the fact that students like us, we lack critical thought in deciding what is taught in schools?
Again, I'm not using Cambridge as the school that I think of, but in America, we have millions of people that go to these massive state schools that have humanities departments that are not reading the great books, that do not have a tutoring system, that are unfortunately laced with the most anti-Western thought imaginable. I don't really quite following what one thing has to do with the other, why 3,000 chapters has something to do with your indictment. Maybe you can clarify, but I think we're out of time.
I think it's because you're trying to indoctrinate kids into your ideology while you're claiming that other institutions are indoctrinating people in another way. You think it's possible that people are more left-leaning that go to school because they're just smarter because they went to school? I don't know. Has that ever been a thought in your fucking mind?
You can clarify, but then we'll move on.
In general, colleges should be a place that lift you up to what is good, true, and beautiful. To study the great things that have been, to develop your soul and develop your character. Character in Greek literally means like tattoo, to etch you, to etch within you. Far too often, colleges create ungrateful, pessimistic, and nihilistic revolutionaries that want to tear down what was before and instead have no alternative to build the future. And
Bro, you guys did a J6 and then you defended it. You're sitting here talking about how like young people want to tear the country down when you justified somebody trying to literally tear the country down over a fucking conspiracy theory. What?
the West is suffering because of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I disagree, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to meet you, Charlie. I hope you can understand first rule. I'm a little nervous. There's a very real chance I could wake up tomorrow, front page of YouTube. Charlie Kirk owns man bun idiot with facts and logic. So
Destroys.
yeah, destroys. Okay, so my question is, I agree that stable monogamous relationships often produce the best outcomes for society. But if that structure really works for everyone, why do we consistently see societies, once they become safer and more prosperous, move away from traditional monogamy? And why do so many marriages still end in divorce, even among people who generally try to make it work? And just one.
Well, I mean, the biggest reason is because the closer you are to religion, the closer you are to being forced to be in a relationship with somebody, right? So, like, religion doesn't encourage, like, marriages of love. Religion encourages marriages in general. And so what ends up happening is they get together and they stay together for like a religious bond that's not necessarily, bound in some kind of love. And then it doesn't work out, but they just, have abusive relationships instead of like actually be productive together. Right. And so that's why people are kind of like looking, they don't have the root of religion anymore to be like, hey, you should be together for these reasons. And so people are really just in a transition phase of people like learning what it means to be in love, because a lot of people, a lot of people have parents that were, they're together because they're parents that are together because of religion. They don't necessarily love each other. And so you pick up on those habits of like, your parents, when they don't love each other, are going to communicate certain things through their actions about the way that they treat each other. They treat each other like shit in many instances. And then you learn that, and then you look for love. But then looking for love, your foundation isn't in love. You didn't witness like a loving relationship as a kid. You witnessed a very unloving relationship as a kid. And then now you are looking for a toxic relationship. It's not working because, again, you didn't intuitively learn what it means to actually find somebody you're compatible with. Right? And so that's one of the problems. So we're in a transition phase where people kind of have to figure it out for themselves and then hopefully have happy relationships that aren't just like forcefully bound together through religion. Right?
One final framing there. If you believe in free markets because they are decentralized and they adapt to reality without top-down control, and given the individual ability to form healthy long-term pair bonds very significantly with factors like genetics and ecologically calibrated attachment styles, why do you reject top-down control in economics but not extend that same rejection to human behavior in terms of marriage?
Okay, so the first one, the second law of thermodynamics answers your question, is that it's the law of decay. Societies tend to decay against the roots that created them. For example, as a side note, here in this country, you guys invented the idea of free speech. You brought it to the world. You guys do not have free speech in this country anymore. 30 people a day are arrested in the UK for inflammatory social media posts.
Okay, and why does that mean that there's no free speech? What does it mean to be an inflammatory post? Are they saying violent, shitty things that would be considered like even under our system where you have free speech? Like you can't say whatever you want to say. Like you understand this, right? Like you can't like make threats. Freedom of speech is not freedom of consequences. It's also not freedom of like being able to say whatever you want. You can be arrested if you're saying something violent.
Someone by the name of Lucy Connolly is currently facing prison time for a Facebook post that was critical of migrants.
Is that what it was? What was her name again? Let's see. So Lucy Connolly called for hotels housing asylum seekers to be torched to the ground. So when you say that her freedom of speech is being rejected, that seems a little ignorant, bud. But okie dokie, if you say so. That's not protected. That's not protected under free speech. It's not protected under free speech to say that. You can torch buildings to the ground. Okay. Why would you ever listen to Charlie Kirk when he is so willing to lie? Like, I've been so stupid before. I've gotten things wrong. I could be a stupid fuck, but dishonest? I'm not. And not all conservatives are dishonest. But that was such a dishonest thing to say. They're taking away freedom of speech from this country. This woman named Lucy Connolly, she's getting arrested because she just expressed her disagreement with migrants. She said that you should torch the buildings to the ground. Here's the thing. Disagree with migrants being here all you want. I don't give a fuck. That's totally cool. But that's an act of violence. That's calling for violence. That's not protected under free speech in any country. It shouldn't be protected under free speech. It's a threat. That's calling for somebody to be killed. You guys are melting down over 86, 47 or whatever. You're thinking that that's a call of violence, which I don't think it is. I think it just means, hey, get rid of this guy, impeach him or something, whatever. I don't care. That's an active threat. Say, hey, kill people. Go burn stuff to the ground. Go hurt people. Like, why are you guys so okay with Charlie Kirk lying on purpose? There's no way he didn't know that. He's smart enough. He's media trained. He has like an entire robust institution doing fact checking for him. He just wanted to lie to you there, so he just did. This guy is a debater. He doesn't have a meaningful conversation. It's not even worth talking to this guy. He's a freak. He's a lying freak. What the fuck was that?
Is currently facing prison time for a Facebook post that was critical of migrants. It is normal.
Critical of migrants. Incredible.
Unfortunately, for civilizations to get away from how they once operated and how they once were. Now, to your question, does that answer the first part of your question? You were saying, why do they get away from monogamy? I want to make sure I'm answering your question.
I would say I don't feel that that's a full answer.
Okay, so you're asking why do they get away from what works? Is that correct?
Yes. Well, why do societies make this change once they become more prosperous?
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, because prosperity leads to degeneracy, for sure.
Oh, degeneracy. Hell yeah, baby.
That would be the answer. And so once you are prosperous,
apparently it's not degeneracy to call for for burning down like the homes of asylum seekers. That's not degenerate. But okay.
And to no longer have the moral guardrails or the limitations. Let's just say you no longer have delayed gratification because you have instant gratification because you have a surplus of goods, and then you have a decline of a transcendent moral order. The second part of the question, can you remind me, please, what the second question was?
About
markets?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, for example, I believe in intervention in markets if there is something that is improper morally. So, for example, I do not believe that you should be able to scam your neighbor or have misleading advertising. Do
you think that you should be able to burn their living place down, though? I'm just wondering about that.
I believe in a transcendent moral standard, and the same goes for my personal views on marriage.
Okay, so I think we largely agree on the foundation. I'd like to propose something that you might like to think about. So, firstly, I absolutely acknowledge that, again, if everyone in society was able to maintain healthy long-term pair bonds, that would be best. Again, there's strong data showing that independent of socioeconomic factors, broken homes are some of the strongest predictors of poor life outcomes.
We totally agree.
Yes. And even, I'm not sure if many people here are aware of this, but if you track, as countries become more socially egalitarian, somewhat surprisingly, rates of female depression and anxiety also spike disproportionately. So
I think that has to do with a lot of like internet access, honestly.
I think one of the problems here is that when you try and impose more absolutism, inevitably, again, due to variance in attachment issues, due to industrialized culture, absent parents, screens, raising kids, around 50% of adults in the West develop attachment disorders, which make it very difficult to maintain long-term pair bonds. And then additionally, you have things like variation in oxytocin receptors, in density and shape, also in vasopressin. There are going to be, even if there's 5% of people who feel that these rules really do not fit them, they will push back. And this will create ideologies that then grow into more wider appealing ideologies, which then, lead to the change. I think this is what happened in the sexual revolution. It started with a push for female autonomy. And then it was almost morphed into a really exaggerated expression of pushing for maximizing individual freedom. And I think that when you try and impose moral absolutism this way, it just inevitably causes pushback. And I think if you were to, as someone with a platform, instead say, hey, monogamy is great, it works best for most people, but I also understand there are some people it doesn't work so well for, more people would hear the message that you want to push.
Okay, thank you for that. That's an interest. I've actually never gotten that question before. It's very thoughtful. Would you say you're against moral absolutism then?
Yes, I would.
Are you against that absolutely?
Well, that's funny. I mean, what moral absolutism is just the idea that there's like an absolute moral code that exists. I mean, it's a kind of a relative code. Which is the truth, because even religious people like Charlie Kirk acknowledge that the Bible isn't perfect, right? When you bring up, hey, slavery is okay in the Bible, they go, no, God changed his mind. He actually gives you information and laws and morals based on what he feels a society is prepped for. I've heard like Ben Shapiro say that, which I think is an interesting concept, and I think it's a beautiful thing. Then who's to say God's not speaking through us now to change things like being more accepting of gay people, right? Just to keep in mind.
No, I'm very open to having my mind changed. And
So it's not an absolute thing.
well, I'm against moral absolutism.
Are you against moral absolutism? Absolutely.
No, I mean, like, for instance, like right now, it is morally okay to eat animals, right? But in the future, we might have like lab meat or something, and there might be some kind of a change, and then we might make a difference in our change, and then all of a sudden, like, it may not be as moral if there's like the cost-effective alternatives. Then you could be like, oh, okay, like that's fair. Hey, things are changing. There's nothing wrong with that. Like some things can be morally like changed, right?
Okay, so then you're consistent. So
I think
it's all just kind of. It's preference, not. It's about preference. Then you could just basically do whatever you prefer. There is no transcendent moral order.
No, usually, I mean, like, really, I think fundamentally, it's like the golden rule. Hey, do unto others, like, treat others the way you want to be treated, kind of a thing. I know it sounds silly, but like, hey, don't infringe on other people. You do whatever you want as long as you're not infringing on other people in some capacity, right?
Well, I think what you're doing there is slightly unfairly putting me into a loop because I'm very open to having my mind changed.
No, that's
my morals
what I'm saying, though, is that by definitionally, and this is something that will keep on coming back, you must choose what moral standard we live by. I'm very
Yeah, we, as a society, we are capable of critical thought. Right.
Clear as to what moral standard. The lie of the West, of modernity, the last 30 years, is that we're going to have you live and let live, and there will be no moral standard. That itself is a moral standard, and it's a really bad one. And to your point, that yes, it creates more suffering, it creates more despair. And no, I disagree with what you say, and I respect the heart of what you're saying it. I will say that I have a moral obligation not to accommodate when people fall short, but instead try to lift them up towards the standard that is true and that I know that works.
So where I'd push this is I'd ask you, you describe people falling short when they fail to engage in long-term monogamy. What do you think causes that? Why do you think some people struggle?
Many reasons. Economic is one of them, but the biggest is the death of...
Okay, so if you're acknowledging economics is like one of the causes, wouldn't you be more of an advocate for lifting economic burden through like a meaningful wealth redistribution, especially now with technology able to do so many jobs and taking away jobs and driving wages down?
Religion and the death of Christianity in the West. As America, I'll just talk about America. The UK is unfortunately far less churched than America, but as America has become less churched, so many of these social ills rise.
So one thing I'd say...
No. People need to understand something. I understand the claim of like, hey, as we're getting less religious as a society, we're kind of decaying. Well, is it possible that we're what they're saying is that society's decaying because we're getting less religious. Are you sure? Or are you sure that we're not getting less religious because of religion decaying? I don't know. Like, you have, people grow up thinking that like gay people are terrible, bad, fucking horrible pieces of dog shit because of religion. So like people are like, oh, I don't like that. It's disgusting. It's not pushing love. I hate this. And they turn away from it. And then that's it. I don't really know what you want me to tell you. I mean, like if religion cared about pushing a society forward, it would be more for Jesus' teachings and we would have a better tax structure. But religious people are constantly trying to cut taxes for rich people and cut themselves over while we take away resources from poor people. I don't really understand that. I think it's ridiculous.
So I study the evolution of behavior, in particular sexual romantic behavior. If you track all the different hunter-gatherer cultures that we can study, and we track how agriculture shapes things, you see that ecological conditions really reliably predict the prevalence of monogamy, certain marriage systems, and what I think is what we refer to as attachment issues. They seem to be an ecological calibration to an environment. In environments that are more unstable, it's less optimal for an individual to grow up with a tendency to rely on long-term pair bonds. And I think there's a mismatch with the modern world, again, coming back to industrialization. There are so many people who raise kids as absent parents. Daycare is massively linked to attachment issues. This then causes people to struggle the bond long term. And then again, coming back to the genetic part, there's again real research showing that especially vasopressin mutations and oxytocin mutations, some people really just do not have the proclivity for this.
What brings stability? Because you say stability is a good thing. And what would...
Well, I would say that like what brings stability would be some kind of like economics, like financial stability. That would be, money brings stability. We're seeing a massive reduction in money for the middle and lower class. So that's what's reducing our stability. Let's just keep in mind, religion was created by human beings to guide society and create certain moral structures. That's why you can predict what type of society will have what type of God, because there's like a predictability to it.
Would bring stability.
So first of all, I would say we had what you might consider stability in the previous century, and then it became unstable. And then things...
Why?
I'm saying because moral absolutism was imposed.
Moral absolutism was lost. You see, modernity rose. We started to teach our kids moral relativism, and we got...
It's money. It's money. That's what it is. It's the lack of money. It's a very simple answer. People can't survive. That's what it is. It's money. People are more empathetic the more money that they have. The more money they have, the more that they can lose, the more that they're okay with giving to other people and helping. But the middle class doesn't have money. And so every time taxes are raised for rich people, the middle class thinks that it's raised on them, and they start shitting and coming and farting in their pants. Okay?
Rid of moral absolutes. So it's the opposite.
So why was it lost? Was it lost because people stopped pushing
Start
from
bringing
top
this
down?
question to a close.
Why was it lost? That's a question for far smarter minds. I can only tell you that it was. In America,
Yeah, because of money. Because people don't have money anymore.
it's honestly one of the worst decisions, not the worst ideas ever, which is modern feminism, largely from Betty Friedan's feminist mystique, which acted as if every woman who's in a monogamous marriage in the States is in some sort of tyrannical environment.
Yeah.
And it has
so
led
just to
to...
be clear, the reason, like, it's not women that are pushing, like, less... I would say it's men. Men are the ones that want to be monogamous at lower rates. I would guarantee you that. So I don't know why we're blaming women for this concept here, when it's definitely dudes that are like, yeah, I want to be, I want to be like open or whatever. That's what it's fucking dudes, like 1,000%. I'm fucking dudes 1,000%.
The women of the West being the most miserable, most depressed, most suicidal, most prescription drug addicted cohort on the planet, and I think we need to appropriately challenge feminism.
Why do you think that is? A lot of it's social media blasting into your brain. Like, people misappropriate this idea. It's because social media is shitting into people's mouths and like fucking farting on their balls. Okay, social media makes you stressed constantly. You're constantly comparing yourself to other people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's very toxic. It's very unproductive. It's very not great in many ways. That's why people are more depressed in the West and on drugs and shit. Okay, it has nothing to do with there not being enough God anywhere. It's because we have so much abundance. We can sit on social media all day. We can compare ourselves to other people. That's what it comes down to. We need to stop pretending that it's because we're not close enough to God. It's nothing to do with God. It's because people have unproductive relationships with themselves, with other people, with social media, and in general, they have too much leisurely time. So they're sitting here and they're like, oh my God, I'm so depressed. Everything's so bad. Look at this person. They have so much. Why don't I have so much? Why don't I this? Why don't I that? That's what it is. Stop pretending something else. Stop being ridiculous. Stop being like a little goose.
Feminism and tell young women that it's okay. In fact, it's courageous to get married and have children again. I think it would solve a lot of our problems.
What problems? Like what? Like not having enough white people? Like what problem? I'm just being a little silly, dude. I feel like there's a little bit of that dog whistle though when I hear people say that. You know, I'm fine with Hispanic people working jobs. You know what I mean? It's chill. I don't give a fuck who's making my Dunkin' Donuts order as long as it's being made. Ew, a girl.
So I'm a feminist.
Ew.
My question is about the role of women, though. What should women's role in public and private life look like, and what are the material benefits of that?
I think that the role, I'll tell you, my public and private life, publicly, you see it, I'm a streamer. Privately, with my wife, you guys don't need to know about that. That's horrible. It borders abuse, okay? Not when we're just hanging out, watching TV, or making dinner or something, okay? Not at all, unless you consider the way she interacts with me, right? But behind closed doors, Jesus, dude, that's fucking crazy. But that's what women want, dude. Some of these women, they're just fucking freaks, and they're like, oh, do horrible things to me. It's like, Jesus Christ, what the hell's the matter with you? Thank God we don't record it, you know?
Well, thank you for that. Can I take it? I don't even want to take this detour, but can we both agree on what a woman is?
Yes.
Oh, trans! We got a trans in there! Yeah! What's a woman? Trans! Oh, fuck. What is a woman, dude? What's a woman?
An adult human female, it's a biological state of being that is also socially experienced. Can I please elucidate just one example of that social experience?
Yeah, I was going to answer your question, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
He's trying to get off topic, dude.
So let's say you're a member of a tribe, and in that tribe, you have the biological female anatomy, and in order to become a woman in that tribe, you have to also get a tattoo. That's a social experience that's mapped onto biological reality.
So can a woman have a prostate?
Can a woman have a prostate? Biologically speaking, a woman is an adult human female that has a biological reality.
Sure, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. A woman's anything, I'll fuck. Listen, man, here's my thing. Okay, and I understand this isn't going to solve all the world's problems, but when it comes to conservatives talking about, you know, trans women and being like, oh, you can't just decide to be a man or a woman and you can't change that. It's like we have been assigning and reassigning what makes being man, like a manhood and womanhood, et cetera, forever. That's not true. Okay, so if you knew somebody that like molested a child, is that, and let's say you have a biological male and they molest a child, is that a man? Well, they're a male. I'm not talking about their sex, definitely, because obviously they have pretty gross sex. I'm talking about like that spiritual aspect of it. Call it gender, call it whatever you want. Is that a man? No, it's not a man, right? We already know we can deny people being like men, women, philosophically speaking. Obviously, we've known for a long time that being like having a penis isn't the only thing that makes you a man. Having vagina and tits isn't the only thing that makes you a woman. Because I have tits, right? It's deeper than that, right? There's a certain code to it. Okay, so like, stop pretending that we've never like that. The concept of reassigning gender identity is so foreign and non-existent. We've always been doing shit like this to some degree, forever. Right, we know this, so knock it off.
But it's also social experience, right? So I don't.
Yeah, it's super easy. Like, can a woman have a prostate?
So as per my definition of woman, I would say that people.
Bro, you believe? I mean, not to be an asshole, but you believe in God. So, I think it's a beautiful thing. But stop sitting here being like, "Oh, that's illogical." Come on.
Who have a prostate?
You think that if somebody that tickles their prostate with another man's penis, that they're going to live in eternal hell, eternal punishment for stimulating your booty hole? And you want to tell me that you think fucking trans people are illogical? I don't know, doggy boy.
They are biologically male, but they can sometimes be socially treated as women.
Okay, got it. So women can have.
He let her get him off. Excuse me. She let him get her off track with some like random question about trans people that was not even called for. And she should have been like, I'm not answering that question. Like, she literally came up there to ask a completely different question. And he's like, oh, what is a woman? It's like, okay, well, she was going to ask, what the fuck is happening?
Prostates, got it. Okay, so you're a feminist that actually isn't just fighting for women, you're also fighting for men.
So
yeah, feminism is also fighting for men. Can we stop pretending it's not? Okay, all right, dude. Feminism is supposed to be about fighting for men and women, mostly women, but also men. Okay, the whole concept of like expressing your feelings comes from the concept of feminism for guys. Okay, it's okay for dudes to do more feminine-leaning jobs. In fact, we need it. Social worker, feminine-leaning job. You don't know what you want to do with your life? Be a social worker. It's a tough job, but we need more men. We need strong masculine presences in female-oriented jobs. Just like it's helpful for having like a female presence in a male world. Don't have all your managers be men. The female presence can be helpful and help you come up with different strategies to help relate to different people. But this idea that like feminism is this big scary monster, like, yes, I understand 15-year-old girls that say that they're non-binary are mean to you on TikTok because they talk about feminism, but the real world feminism is just like, hey, dudes can be a little feminine too. That's totally chill. You could talk about your feelings instead of beating your wife. That's all it is. So stop demonizing feminism. It's okay to think things are cringe, but stop like, so you're a feminist who helps men too? He's trying to just be like, he's trying to trans the argument because he's a fucking freak that's obsessed with trans. Like, have you seen his gums before? There's so much fucking trans cum on those things. But like, stop pretending feminism isn't supposed to be an advocation for men in some capacity too.
Yes, yeah. Men also experience harms from patriarchy, but I argue...
We're talking about the same feminism, though, just make sure. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So men also experience harm from patriarchal domination, but I would argue that those harms come from that system of domination itself. In the same way, for example, this isn't a threat, but if I reached across and punched you in the face, then my hand might hurt. Right? So are we understanding that there are patterns of power? So I would also...
I don't know what the fuck she's talking about.
...fight for the rights of men as a feminist, just as I would fight for the rights of women.
Sure. You think women are happier than they were 40 years ago?
I think...
Probably not, man. It's probably because it's tough to live, boy. It's tough to get a fucking job in this economy, dude. It's tough to have a job that pays your fucking bills in this economy, buddy. You think that has anything to do with... what do you think that has to do with? What do you think that has to do with, man?
I would have a few responses to that. I think that women report more stress and dissatisfaction today because, not because they have more rights or because of feminism, but because they're under dual pressure to both excel professionally and also because of the domestic labor in homes that is structured around outdated expectations. So, for example,
sure, and plus it do be hard to live.
For example, studies like the OECD's Better Life Index show that women's life expectancy, education levels, professional achievements have risen in countries with higher gender inequality. So I would argue that what you're calling unhappiness is actually visibility, because now we hear women expressing dissatisfaction.
I mean, that's actually a good point, too.
Whereas in the 50s, we prescribed them Valium and we lobotomized.
Ooh, she got you, Charlie.
That's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny.
Really? That's your whole argument? Women did not complain?
So, hold on a second. Why are suicide rates going up more for women?
I would say that the reason why suicide rates are going up for people in general, but I guess specifically women in this instance, it's a mixture of different things. First and foremost, when you're smarter, you worry more. This is just a fact. I used to work with people, God bless them, they weren't bad people, that could just stand still and stare for an hour to kill time. If I'm not mentally stimulated, I am miserable, right? And I think that has a level of comparison with intelligence. The more intelligent you are, the more you think, the more you can't sleep sometimes because you are thinking, you have complex thought. That's depressing, and especially if you're somebody who's intelligent and is not able to actually express that intelligence in a meaningful capacity. If there's somebody that's like very intelligent, but let's say there's a lack of access to jobs because we live in a flawed structure that prioritizes billionaires, which shouldn't exist because we have homeless people, where they're able to use technology to displace jobs and drive down wages, you're not going to feel fulfilled, and that's going to be incredibly depressing. We also have social media, which is an outcome of abundance. And what does social media do? Social media makes you look and compare to other people and get depressed. And honestly, there's also a level of truth to online bullying. So that's probably why that's happening. Let's see Charlie's reason. I'm assuming it's because less God.
I think that encourages...
complaining. Materially, women are killing themselves more. Why is that?
I think that even if both men...
Probably because they can't find guys to kill that pussy, dude. Because guys be dropping the fucking ball, dude.
Both men and women have become unhappier. Men's suicide rates have risen as well, and that's also been exponential. Can you at least concede that feminism offers only one potential explanation? There could be also other explanations.
Of course, obviously, but feminism is the glaring thing in front of us where we have fertility rates
Feminism is what's the problem?
down, we have marriage rates down.
We have fertility rates down. Why are fertility rates down? Because we're an unhealthier society and people are focusing on working, which would be like, hey, see, that's where feminism is bad, guys. I figured it out. But Charlie, you didn't have any kids with your wife until you were 30, and she's a working woman. So why the fuck are you pretending that you care about these things? It doesn't make any fucking sense. I don't get it, bud. I don't get it, boy. I don't get it, boy.
We have unhappiness up, and we did something in the 1960s out of the universities of Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem and all these feminists that basically said, you're trapped in a home, go get a job, freeze your eggs, take birth control, and all of a sudden women are way unhappier than they were 40 years ago. I just have to ask the question, why is that? Is it working? And maybe there are biological
Maybe that has nothing to do with the actual problem, poo-poo head.
differences between men and women that we should respect, and that deep down a lot of women want to get married and have children. In fact, we should applaud it, and we
If women do want to get married and have children, then they would.
should support it, and we should...
There's like one thing I would say to this whole thing that might be on Charlie's side a little bit, and I've expressed this concept before, but I think that there is to some extent like a fear being taught amongst women about like what it means to be a woman. Like it can be dangerous to be a woman. I'm not trying to take away from that, but I feel like especially online, the way that we teach can sometimes be disproportionate, and so I think that there are probably a lot of young women who are like terrified of identifying as a woman even, and maybe one of the reasons why some of them are identifying more as non-binary because they're sexualized constantly by men, or they're taught to be like hyper afraid of men, not just aware of men, but like afraid of men in a way that may not be productive. And so like there might be a level of truth to that. I think it's more complicated than just that factor, but there might be a level of truth to that.
Say it means nothing if you're going to go be a CEO of some shoe company or be some banker in London. What matters if you raise children and you have something to pass down long after you're gone.
I think I would bring 2 points to that. The first one is just really simple, which is that you can ascribe liberalism all you want as the cause of the unhappiness. I would argue something else. I would say that it's certain economic policy that has very little to do with the social
I would 100% agree with that.
of alternative lifestyles. I would say that we can recognize that
I'll tell you right now, you'll be much happier as a couple if you have money.
income inequality across a vast swathe of Western countries has increased, which causes all kinds of social ills, a lack of social cohesion, housing price growth doesn't correspond with wage growth, monopolies increasingly become kind of emboldened to interfere with politics, and monopolies don't prioritize social health either. I think that those offer more compelling reasons for a decline in happiness than an increase in freedoms, because just one more thing, on an intuitive basis, generally speaking, people want more freedom, not less.
Okay, so if that's true, why is it? Do you agree that the happiest women of the West are married with kids?
They might be, but I don't know. Are women that live in the West with kids the happiest women? I mean, maybe. It's possible. They might be. I mean, I could imagine, well, I don't know about happy. I've seen statistics that say otherwise, but I imagine that you have more meaning in your life because you have a kid. But like, I think it's okay for you. It doesn't, what she's saying doesn't disagree with him. It's just like an explanation. So he's trying to say, because we're not forcing women to have babies and be baby machines, we're failing as a Western country. It's like, oh, is that the case? Or is it just because people don't have the economic freedom to feel like they can actually have kids in a safe, secure way? Or maybe it's that. Maybe that's actually what's happening. Maybe you're misprescribing the problem here, which is so most certainly that's happening here. Oh, Jesus Christ. I think that it's more of like a misprescription of the problem. If people had more money, they'd be able to have a higher access to having kids. So...
I would have to look into it, but I think there are certain
and objectively we know that, right? The women with kids are not the ones tearing down statues, right? They're the ones that actually have obligations.
Does tearing down statues correspond to some kind of smiles per capita data set that I wasn't aware of?
Again, it's a little bit of a one-liner. The happy and the grateful. the happy and the grateful usually don't go burn down Wendy's in their spare time, of which we saw in our country all throughout a single summer. But as a side note, you would agree.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably not happy because of different injustices in America that you actively seem to support.
Objectively, study after study, survey after survey, that the women of the West that are married and have children, especially a lot of children, are far happier than even the ones that earn more money correlated at the same age.
So I also don't think.
Well, it's also because they probably earn more money in a poorer state where you can support having kids there. And those people in those poorer states get subsidized by the people in the richer states. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they get like government subsidies, and I pay more into my taxes than my state gets back in federal grants. But okay.
I think that happiness is a very good metric, and neither do you, because you think gay people shouldn't just pursue happiness by being gay. They have other moralistic considerations to be making.
That's actually a great point. Holy fuck.
So I don't think smiles per capita is a particularly convincing way to measure whether or not we should encourage women to be autonomous. I think we should maximize agency within a fair system that has reasonable parameters because it's expedient, it's good for the economy, it's logical, it's the moral thing, because if we can't prove the material harms, we shouldn't discourage it. And also self-reported.
I hate stuff like this. Like, she's making good points, but this is so debatey. I hate, like, debates like this are just so performative. They're not actually about like having a conversation and getting to know each other where you're at. It's just about fighting each other. That's why like Charlie Kirk is lying so much.
Studies is a really flawed way to do psychology. It's the week before my university exams right now, and I'm standing here explaining the basic methodology behind survey collection in sociology, which you don't even think is a real subject, to Charlie Kirk. If I took one of those surveys right now, I'd check extremely miserable. But so would a Palestinian child who's been taunted to smithereens. How are we going to measure?
You would say extremely miserable?
No, I'm kind of making a joke.
No, I mean, but seriously, like.
Oh, this is what I'm talking about. Charlie, like, she said something to make a point. He's like, wait, let me capture something. He knows he's weak as fuck on this point right now, and so what he's doing is he's like, oh, you said you're extremely miserable? Oh, I wonder why that is. He's just redirecting the conversation. He's not listening. He's not trying to actually like take your opinion and give it any moral consideration. It's all about just like debating the fuck out of you. This is what I'm talking about. This shit is fucking cringe as hell.
But hold on. I mean, like, that's an important point, though, is that the women in the West have it the best in the world, and yet they're way unhappier than women of sub-Saharan Africa. There's something fundamentally wrong here, because the women of sub-Saharan Africa have something that a lot of women in the West do not have.
How do we know that? Do we get robust statistics from women in fucking Africa? What?
The women in the West have cats, and they have good jobs, and the women of sub-Saharan Africa, they have a belief in the divine, and they have kids. And maybe there's a biological undercurrent that is keeping a lot of women.
Take any of those women and bring them here and see if they actually like it more here than they do than there. I wonder if there's, can we consider doing that? Or no? Fuck.
From realizing their full potential. And so without reading your phone and just like, connecting.
I'm not really reading my phone.
Well, it's fine. Sure, then you can.
But like, that's a good answer. The phone might have a lot to do with it. Like, the phone makes you stressed out, man. Like, I'm telling you, there's like actual fucking addiction to social media and shit. So I think that's like a real factor to hear.
Answer without it. Fair enough. Would you agree that it's a good thing that more women get married and have children in the West?
I would ask you, would you say that
Sure. I think that would be great. I think the answer should be yes.
Sub-Saharan African woman who's experienced female.
How do we get more people? How do we get people to have more kids? Do we batter them over the head by saying you have to be religious? Or do we say, like, okay, why aren't people having kids right now? Is it because it's really expensive and it's hard to have a kid right now? Oh, fuck, that is the case. Okay, how do we change that? How do we make a change to that and like actually, encourage people to have kids more?
Genital mutilation and checked extremely happy in a survey. And I also would check extremely happy in a survey. Who do you think would be objectively more happy, even if they both check the same?
This is a great point. Hold on.
Have children in the West.
I would ask you, would you say that a sub-Saharan African woman who's experienced female genital mutilation and checked extremely happy in a survey, and I also would check extremely happy in a survey, who do you think would be objectively more happy, even if they both check the same answer?
No, again, so I fully, if you want to talk about how Islam
I think this is a great question.
mistreats women, we could talk all day long. Like,
Okay, but he just referenced and said the women in that area are happier. So then you can't just flounder off the point at this point.
I'm all for that.
Me too.
Okay, good. So we agree.
Absolutely,
We actually
we agree on
have
many things.
Then we should shut off Muslim immigration to the UK, right? We totally agree.
Nah, we probably should. Yeah, you know what? I think that you should be totally fine with that as long as you're also okay with kicking out every like evangelical Christian out too. I think that's something to consider. You want to sit here and just like make it seem like it's just the religion of Islam that causes so many fucking problems, as if you guys aren't fucking abusing people every fucking day with like some of the shit that you talk about.
I think that all religious fundamentalism is bad, and if you take that logic, we should also not allow evangelical Christians into the UK either.
Hold on. So hold on a second. Hold on. That's funny. Hold on.
I agree.
Can you show me what would your example, because I have 50, of a single Christian country that you would say mistreats women right now?
America.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I mean, not for nothing. The reason America mistreats women less than other countries is not because of fucking religion. Every day you guys complain. You're literally sitting here crying about feminism giving women the ability to actually like work and then you're like, oh yeah, well, this country that uses that was founded on American, excuse me, this country that was founded on the Christian religion is doing so well. It must be because they're Christian. Really? No, it's not. You know it's not. You're trying to take away those values every single day. You're trying to take away those protections every single day from like women, and like those rights every single day. You're literally sitting here talking about how women should just be fucking baby making machines. What are you talking about? You obviously don't fucking. What are you talking about?
We had a female woman vice president. We had a female vice president, a female speaker of the House. Women earn more than men in America.
In Rwanda, female representation in government
Is that true? I don't think that's true. I think that women earn more than men when they're like under 30. I think that part's true, but not in general.
Supersedes the UK by quite a lot. Did women get treated better in Rwanda?
Okay, I might be super off this. Like, is Rwanda Islamic? Like, I'm not totally sure. I don't think it is. Like,
why are you sitting here talking about Islam so much?
Is it? Like, I don't know, actually. It's not. So, again, we were just talking about Islam. It's a little bit of a side note, but you must...
He decided to bring it to Islam because he feels comfortable, especially with this audience, like being Islamophobic. That's why.
be morally clear, because you brought up...
Pretending that Islam is any worse than fucking Catholicism or anything.
Female genital mutilation, which is a teaching of the Islamic faith. But as a side note, like, again...
Okay, so listen, maybe that is true. You realize that like a circumcision is male genital mutilation, right? Like, can we just stop pretending that getting circumcised is normal? Do you know how fucking strange it is that you cut the tip of a baby's penis off when they're born? For what reason? Well, it's hard to clean. What are you, a fucking child? I know men struggle to wash their ass, but holy fuck. Oh, but it's clean though. Okay, so then rip everybody's teeth out. All the time. Rip your teeth out so you don't get fucking cavities. But I could just brush my teeth. Okay, then you can peel back your little fucking schmingle hood and you can get your shit together. Okay? Oh, the religion of Islam's bad because of genital mutilation. Oh, trans kids are bad because the genital mutilation. Oh, but it's okay to cut your tip of your penis off with like no fucking numbing agent or anything the second a boy is born. Listen, you guys, what are you talking about? You guys are sitting here. You're doing that. Oh, you're happy you're circumcised, bro. You're happy because you have to be. You have to be circumcised. I'm circumcised too. And I'm happy with it. But you have to be. You have no other option. There's no other choice. There's no alternative. You can't get it back. That is a psychological human condition to be happy with something when you can't change it. That's kind of the point. It's a cope. You're coping, dude. You're coping. You had your penis cut off. Be outraged, dude. You had part of your penis cut off. Why? Oh, it's cleaner. Oh, you want to know why? Because of big feminism. That's why. The feminists want you to cut your penis off because it makes sex feel worse for you. So that when you do it, you don't come as fast. You guys have to think this through. You guys have to think this through. You have to think it through. You guys don't think enough. You guys aren't philosophers. I am a philosopher. So think about it.
This is very important. Which is, I'm not here to require you to do anything or not. I'm making a simple observation, which is objectively true.
That is true. Charlie almost exclusively makes simple observations. I don't know if you guys know that. That's pretty much it.
Regardless, the women of the West are miserable. And they're miserable for a reason. Because we've told them to suppress how they are made by God and pursue something else.
That's crazy. Hey, have you ever asked women like why they're depressed? Hey, why are you depressed? Probably a lot of it's to do with like lack of money and social media, like constantly beaming information into your brain, making you fucking afraid of the entire world that's going on. But have you ever asked a woman like, hey, why are you depressed? What's going on with you, girly pop? No, you don't seem to ask women why they're depressed. You kind of just tell us it's because there's not enough religion. That puts them in circumstances where they'll get fucking abused if they don't follow the rules correctly. Hey, don't you want to be married to a guy that has full control over you? That makes you do anything that he wants you to do. Isn't that what you want? Wow. Women would be so much happier. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Talk to a fucking woman. Talk to a woman for once in your fucking life.
Get a bunch of trinkets and get a bunch of promotions, and they end up at
a bunch of promotions. What? Promotions bad? Work bad for women.
Years old with a big flat in London,
Damn.
And they're miserable. We should tell them to stop freezing their eggs and start finding their partner earlier and have lots of babies.
Damn. Okay, Charlie, when did you have a baby? When did you have a baby, Charlie? Charlie Kirk, when did you have your first kid? Charlie Kirk's 31. Okay? According to Google, he got married to his wife when she was 32. Isn't that crazy? She's a podcaster and a businesswoman. They had their first kid 3 years ago when he was, 28, 29? Wow. So what is early to you again, bud? What does that mean? How can you sit here and give advice to people that you didn't even take yourself? You guys became successful, then found each other, and then had a kid once you were stable. Why are you telling young people to do any different? If you want to have kids early, be my guest. But why are you saying you should have kids early? Bro, did you? You didn't do that yourself? Why didn't you live by your own teachings? That's what I'm talking about. This guy is a fucking phony baloney.
I'd bring two just final points to this. First one is just really intuitive, right? Which is that if you actually care about women's happiness, then the solution is to structurally support them. That means universal childcare, shared legally enforceable parental leave, and in Nordic countries where women have high workforce participation and also some state support, they report higher life satisfaction than
I mean, I agree with all these things. Make it easier for fucking, for people to have kids and shit.
more conservative countries.
You want people to have more kids, make it like reduce the economic burden.
Including America. So if your metric is
Just do
happiness,
satisfaction
equality
surveys. You told me
matters.
they're BS.
So are satisfaction surveys bullshit or not? Because you told me they're
Do you
bullshit.
acknowledge satisfaction surveys or not? You just told me that they're BS.
Hey guys, this is Charlie Kirk getting really upset that she said that we should have childcare so that people have more babies.
Do you think they're objective? We can use that as data?
I don't think that
Yes or no?
it's the only sole data set, but it is a
You
data set that
you told me there's a
matters.
flawed and you self-report. Okay, by the macro self-satisfaction data, I am correct. And you are right. When you have paid family leave, you are happier. I'm actually a proponent of that. At
No, you're not.
Turning Point USA, we pay for 6 months when somebody has a child.
That's not family paternity leave. That's him saying, "Hey, we'll give you money if you have a kid." That's not like universal in any capacity.
And there's a lot of agreement we can have on that. We need to encourage having more children. I think the Hungarian child policy is phenomenal. We should look at that because the greatest thing that is plaguing the West is we're not having enough kids. And it's not just bad
It's really not the greatest thing, but okay.
because we won't have a future. It's also bad because the present is awfully miserable for too many women as well.
Okay, in which case I think we get... Do I
Start bringing this to a close, please.
Okay, I think just one final thing, which is that in which case we get to a really interesting argument about what parts of womanhood can be demarcated to the social and what kinds of womanhood can be demarcated to the biological. So, for example, my anatomy is demarcated to the biological, but the fact that I might potentially be a better nurturer than a man, I would demarcate that to the social, you might demarcate that to the biological, in which case we have differing moral scales of value. I would ask why we should necessarily prioritize your moral scale of value, which prioritizes things like the birth rate, when in actual fact there are various other moral scales of value. And if you yourself are a free market American...
This just feels like a question that cannot be like actually constructed in a conversation with Charlie Kirk or in this fashion in general. I don't think Charlie Kirk's like capable of having meaningful, intelligent conversations where people actually like listen and exchange ideas.
Why is it the case that you would not, like the previous speaker noted,
I've already answered
extend personal freedoms towards all spheres, including a private sphere?
I believe in absolute truth claims.
And he just believes that God should be a cool guy.
It's absolutely wrong and bad when a society stops having kids to replace their own population. And then you have to
look at
import the
this
third
guy.
world and you become the third world. It's bad.
Whoa! But didn't you just say that they were happier in the third world? Didn't he just say that they were happier in like Africa than America? Wouldn't we want the third world here? I heard that they were super happy. Charlie, I thought they were really happy in the third world. What the hell are you talking about? The fuck's this guy on about? He just told me that they were super duper happy pants over there. What the fuck?
I disagree, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kirk,
It makes no sense. This dude was literally referencing how happy they are in third world countries, and now he's like, we shouldn't become that though. Why? By your logic, they're super happy over there. Like, what the fuck is he talking about?
you have supported Donald Trump. Is this fair to say?
What?
You've supported Donald Trump and have been quite vocal about this.
Supportive of Donald Trump. Yes, sir. That's right.
Yeah.
One of his main domestic policy agendas has been Doge, trying to drain the swamp, get rid of the grift, ensure that we have a more functioning, more efficient federal budget. According to the Financial Times yesterday, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, among others, have cut roughly $37 billion from the federal government budget. This is a contested figure, of course. Some of these have already been paid out, etc. It's likely to be low, but they've assumed about $37 billion. On top of this, he has engaged in and tried to push tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy that would amount to several $100 billion in terms of tax breaks for the wealthy. Along with this, he has cut money-making institutions, such as the Department of Natural Reserves and all this kind of thing, that bring in about $40 billion, it costs about $5 billion, and the IRS, which brings in a huge amount of money relative to the amount of money it spends. With all of this in mind, is it not fair to say Donald Trump has engaged in a smash and grab for the ultra-rich, for the billionaires that stock his cabinet, for all these people against the modern American...
Well, he's not going to answer that because Charlie Kirk is rich and probably has benefited from Trump being in office.
...that you claim to represent.
Okay, how much do you know about his suggested tax plan?
Pardon?
It cuts welfare for poor people, and it gives money to billionaires. That's what I know about it. I don't need to know the specifics about it because it's disgusting, pathetic fucking shit. That's why.
His suggested tax plan?
Some. I wouldn't say I am the world's...
He has suggested to raise taxes on the wealthy 37% to 40%.
What about federal... No.
Overall, billionaires are going to get a tax cut. It's going to increase the deficit. These are facts.
Federal income tax.
Capital gains.
He's the first... Capital gains will stay where it is. But he's the first Republican president.
Capital gains is what matters more. Capital gain tax is basically taxing the earnings that you get in the stock market before you actually take the money out. Rich people can afford to they can afford to pay themselves very little. they are able to afford to pay themselves very little so that they can like basically they can just afford to pay themselves like nothing. They take their money, they hold it up in the stock market, they don't do anything meaningful with it, and then they pay themselves like nothing at their jobs because they're already super fucking rich. So it's not necessarily like it's good to tax the rich more, but part of it's not just taxing their income, it's taxing the money they already have that they can sit on and that they have been sitting on for how long?
President that we have in since George H.W. Bush that's recommending to raise taxes on the ultra wealthy. Number two, a lot of those cuts, I wish would be even more than $37 billion, have not yet been full realized. In America, again, I don't know how applicable this will be, but the people watching online, he's advocating for no tax on tips. So when you get tips, we have a big tipping culture in America.
He's not advocating for no tax on tips. He's advocating for no tax on cash tips. It's just to get you to report your cash tips income, which you could just not do in the first place. They're just trying to make sure that they know how much money you're making. It's not really a benefit. You could just not do that. Also, I don't believe in no tax on tips. Why don't you just make it so that people get paid a living wage instead of like sitting here and playing fucking games? Why does somebody who works like a job that doesn't provide tips not deserve like a more like meaningful income? Why is there like it doesn't make any sense? Make it better for everybody.
He's advocating for no tax.
I can understand where you're coming from here, Charlie. I can see why it's popular on the face of it. Donald Trump and Republicans of his ilk claim that the federal budget is something we should be very considerate about, and the debt, and the cost of maintenance on that debt. Even if we don't regard any sense of tax increases or tax reduce on the ultra-wealthy, the fact that he is engaging in and defunding money-making institutions such as the IRS exacerbate and increase this problem of debt dependency that the United States has. It is now the largest single problem in the federal budget. Why would you support a man that is exacerbating this issue he claims to care about so much?
Right, I was answering the question. I mean, first of all, his suggested budget cuts $1.5 trillion. I wish it should be even more.
That is not true.
No, it is. It's okay, you could look it up.
$1.5 trillion would be the equivalent of cutting the entire American military budget and a half. Where is he getting... This is number essentially pulled out
again,
of...
it's $1.5
some would say where the sun
trillion.
doesn't shine.
Again, the way that we do budgeting in America in a reconciliation
He's going to say it's over 10 years.
process is over multiple budget cycles. So we're doing 3 budgets this year. I don't know how interested people will be in this.
Okay.
But it's wonky. But again, it literally has $1.5 trillion through this reconciliation.
It has a bunch of money of tax cuts for like services programs that like poor and middle class and lower class Americans need to survive so that they can give tax cuts to the wealthy people. That's
process
what it is.
with the largest middle class tax cut in history. I wish the cuts would be even more. Also, to say he's just doing the pandering of the ultra wealthy, he's advocating for raising taxes on the ultra wealthy. We'll see if that materializes.
That is an income tax. The ultra wealthy generally do not take a large portion of their income from an income tax and take it instead from capital gains.
Well,
Yes, exactly. That's a fact.
Fundamentally increasing an 8% tax on Elon Musk, who takes like $10,000 as a salary or something stupid, will not make any material difference. This is a straw man argument, and it is obfuscating from the fundamental issue. This is a government for and run by oligarchs.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
It's funny you say that. You do know that the richest people in America vote Democrat almost 85%.
That is fundamentally...
Do you know what's like so interesting is that like he's not answering the question. He's not acknowledging it. Charlie Kirk is not like, oh yeah, I know that this is actually really good for rich people. He just brings it to Democrat bad because he has no actual anything outside of the Democrats are bad. There's no policy from Charlie Kirk outside of that.
Mentally not true. The richest,
can I finish?
the most educated...
Okay, again.
Listen, don't tell me I suck at this game, okay? This is the hardest difficulty, and I'm fucking trying to interact with these videos. Shut up, all right? You suck.
9 out of 10 of the wealthiest counties in America vote Democrat. If you earn more than $300,000 US a year, you vote Democrat at a 75% clip. I mean, it is so overwhelmingly the Democrat Party is the party of the rich. Secondly, though, he's going out of his way to cut taxes for working people. No tax on tips.
Well, then, if that's the case, then why are they the only ones that are trying to actually help the middle class? And by the way, I'm not even saying that they're doing a great job at it. I'm just saying, then why is it that conservatives are always trying to fuck the middle class by taking away their shit?
No tax on overtime is the extension of the middle class tax relief. Again, I don't know how interesting this is for a UK audience, but more broadly, President Trump is doing the impossible, something I hope your government does. He is trying to cut taxes for middle class people while also trying to balance the budget.
No, he's not trying to do any of that.
Wish he would cut taxes even more. It's an ambitious project, and I can support him completely in that endeavor.
The extent to which he's attempting to balance the budget is not necessarily true, given that the budget is currently at a higher deficit this current year, as it was at any point under Biden, or I think any other president in history. I would also point to the fact that suggesting that Democrats overwhelmingly vote, wealthy people overwhelmingly vote Democrats is true to a point. After a certain income, they overwhelmingly vote Republican because the tax breaks, kind of business interest and all this that Republicans offer them. Given he is attempting, in your own words, to balance the budget, again, coming back to the root issue, why is he defunding the IRS, which brings in money? Why is he defunding national parks, which makes money? Why is he engaging in all of this if he is trying to balance the budget?
First of all, some of them...
Can I just finish my statement? Is it perhaps because when you defund the IRS, the wealthiest people, the people that fund his super PACs, people that buy his Trump coin, people that are in...
Well, yeah, the reason that we want to fund the IRS with more is specifically because the IRS doesn't just, like, The IRS has to enforce its tax policies, and rich people are the ones that try to take advantage of it at a greater rate. He should have been fucking pushed to his thing. They take advantage of it at a greater rate, so they just won't pay taxes. You need to have IRS agents that are there to enforce it by looking through their books and going, oh, you didn't pay your taxes correctly, and audit them. That's why you can't cut on the IRS, because like, yeah, you can have whatever tax structure you want, but if you're a rich person and you know how to game the system, you're just going to take advantage of the tax structure as it is. That's the problem. That's like the biggest problem. So like, yeah, you can't cut the IRS if you want people to actually pay their fucking taxes.
In fact, in his cabinet, generally pay a lower de facto rate of tax because the IRS can no longer fund to actually investigate and audit them.
Okay, so by defunding, again, the IRS is our tax collection agency. If you guys don't know, it's the Internal Revenue Service. I don't know what it's called here in the UK.
HMRC.
Yeah, sure. So the equivalent is number two. You're not totally wrong about one portion of this, which is that more agents do equal more revenue. You have to have a tension, though, of do you want to grow the IRS by 87,000 extra agents, which Joe Biden did. He's trying to peel that.
Yes, you should do that. You should absolutely do that so that you can collect tax revenue from rich people that don't pay their fucking taxes.
Back. Do you believe in or do you know the Laffer curve? Are you familiar with it? It's this,
I can't say I'm
it's a
I'm
belief
silly
that when you
history
lower
student.
taxes, you can actually increase revenues because compliance.
And it doesn't work. The Laffer curve has been fucking destructive. What? I forget what town it was implemented in, but the Laffer curve model was like implemented in some fucking town, and it ended up fucking the town over, having a part of an impact. What is he talking about?
Laffer curve, are you familiar with it? It's this,
I can't say I'm
it's a
I'm
belief that
silly
when you
history
lower
student.
taxes, you can actually increase revenues because compliance goes up and economic growth goes up. We saw this in the
No, this is not. This doesn't work. This only works if the people that the taxes go down for are middle class, because they're going to spend more. If you give rich people tax cuts, they don't spend more money because they just wealth hoard. This is why this doesn't work, and it's a fucking idiot grift. The only time that cutting taxes could potentially be beneficial is for people who will spend that money. Rich people don't spend more money. They just take it and they invest it into like stocks and other bullshit so that they can make as much money as possible. This is not something that would ever work unless, again, you would give that money to poor and middle class people who will spend that money. This is not something. Giving billionaires tax cuts doesn't do anything constructively or productive in any capacity. Doesn't do anything for everybody. You're a fucking cuck. You're a millionaire cuck that's sitting here trying to sell people on the idea that we should raise taxes for people who don't spend their money. They don't stimulate the economy. They take it and they wealth hoard it so that their 18,000 generations of their own people don't have to work ever again, never have to work hard, while complaining that middle class workers don't work hard enough. They blah blah. That's why they shouldn't get fucking health care. That's all it is. So shut the fuck up.
the United States during Ronald Reagan, during a massive tax cut. Again, it's called the Laffer curve. And so that's actually debated. Just because you cut taxes, you're going to run a deficit. But you're not totally incorrect. You are correct. And I will admit this point, that when you have less IRS agents, you are going to have less revenue. And I think that it's a good thing generally to have less IRS agents looking into the particulars.
So less jobs for Americans too? Wow, that's crazy. Fuck.
Of Americans, and we have a history over the last 10 years right now.
Actually, the richest Americans.
Well, not necessarily. That's the thing, is that the richest Americans actually are able to hire the tax attorneys and the accountants to get through IRS issues and get to settlement.
It's not just that. Yeah, they are able to. That's why you need to have like IRS people to counter them.
We see in the data is it actually ends up with middle class Americans because they do not have the same infrastructure to deal with a very intense IRS agent.
All right, I'm going to say one last thing, taking too much of your time. I think it is interesting to suggest that Donald Trump is the only president that is going to raise taxes on the ultra wealthy. I've already pointed out the potential flaws in that. I would also draw the audience's attention to the fact that Donald Trump is overwhelmingly backed by, supported by, funded by, and in fact stacks his cabinet, as I've mentioned, by billionaires. And you yourself in Turning Point USA relies relatively heavily on the ultra wealthy to give their donations.
Somewhat.
For example, Foster Freeze, although sadly departed.
Yeah,
I know, but
we also have.
When you were founding, you were overtly reliant on this. So I would just like to point out that inconsistency, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thanks.
He just wanted you to make sure that you knew that Charlie Kirk was a financial cuck for Donald Trump, and that you should understand that, because it do be true. It do be true. Hard to do this. Whoa! An old man! Oh, wait, is this the clip that I was going to take a look at the other day?
Marvelous. Thank you. A very, very short question. Israel versus Hamas. Good guy versus bad guy.
Yeah.
Russia versus Ukraine. Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy?
Both are bad. One is worse.
What makes Ukraine bad?
Which way round?
Russia is worse than Ukraine.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
Okay, so why haven't we pursued that?
What do you mean?
Well, it seems to me that in the whole of the current US proposition, that Ukraine is being the bad guy.
Oh, that's not what I wanted to do.
In what way? We funded Ukraine upwards to $200 billion.
We stopped funding them, and then Donald Trump echoed talking points from Russia, saying that Ukraine started the war and that they're the aggressor. What are you talking about?
Absolutely. But
We just signed a mineral deal with Ukraine, not Russia.
Great.
yeah, but you are expecting Ukraine to give up 20% of its territory to someone who invaded it.
Well, is Crimea part of Russia or Ukraine?
It's part of Ukraine.
Ukraine.
That's where we don't agree.
Why?
Well, I'm afraid that's part of
Charlie Kirk's a fucking Russian cum guzzling bitch. That's all you really need to know.
international treaty. That's not up for grabs.
Well, it's interesting. I mean,
that's
hold on. Even Zelensky has said he's willing to give up Ukraine.
I don't give a fuck if Zelensky says that. They shouldn't have to.
No.
And I feel like he's never said that.
America signed the agreement that gave Ukraine Crimea.
Right.
When the Soviet Union ended.
Right. It was done. First of all, it never should have been done. It was largely ceremonial.
No.
But however,
Who gives a fuck? What are you talking about? Hey, keep it. Hey, leave it to Charlie Kirk, dude, to cuck out for fucking Russia, baby. Cuck him out. Cucking out, baby.
it was annexed under Obama. Yes, and it was a mistake. And it should be given back to Russia as a sign of good gesture to end this conflict.
Why? Why would there be good gesture to the fucking? They literally invaded. Why is he such a cuck? Sorry, guys. The guy who pretends to care about gun rights is going to sit here and tell you that you shouldn't defend your own fucking area because somebody decided to take it over.
Who's currently controlling Crimea? Where was the Russian Navy headquartered in World War II? Where was the end of World War II? This is very important.
I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying that if we're being logical on what has happened, that you're now arguing against that flow. And I don't understand it. Because
he's a Russian cuck, just like every other conservative is a Russian cuck bitch. I guarantee you, they all get money from Russia, so they don't give a fuck anymore. They're losers.
Why is Ukraine the bad guy?
No, I said they're bad. They're not the bad guy.
Yeah, well,
you said that they should give up part of their land. They're not the bad guy. They're bad, but not as bad. But by the way, they should give all their land up. Oh, okay, cool.
You said they were both bad, but one was more bad.
Correct, yes.
So why is Ukraine bad?
Well, there's a lot wrong with Ukraine.
Like
First of all, they're not a democracy.
How are they not a democracy?
Zelensky refuses to hold an election.
It's a fucking wartime on their own country.
Well, no, he can't hold an election.
Oh, wait, did Churchill hold an election during the war?
Because under his constitution...
Hold on, Lincoln held an election during the war. That's not true. He can call an election. He can call a snap election. He's full dictator of the country.
No.
Because he knows that the people of Ukraine would kick him out immediately because he's deeply unpopular. In fact, if he wanted...
He's really not that unpopular. He's actually got better approval ratings in Ukraine last time I checked, and than Donald Trump has in America. What are you talking about? I think it's like at least 57%, whereas Trump is at like 48, 49 last time I checked.
To show a statement to the world, he would call an election and win by 80% and say, see, I'm super popular. So
why would they want to destabilize their government while they're getting attacked? That makes no sense.
That's number one. I have a problem with that. I have a
problem with that. I have a real problem with that. What are you talking about, Charlie? You don't give a fuck about elections. You justify January 6th.
Problem with a person being propped up as a government we're sending $200 billion to that refuses even to face his vote.
We didn't give that much money to them, but we should continue to give money to them because they're fighting against Russia. Like this prevents a world war. If they back down now and Russia feels like emboldened because they're able to get like a bunch of land through invading people, they get rewarded for it, then that just encourages them to push more and more and more and start more conflict.
Voters.
I can't agree with you factually on that at all. I mean, constitutionally, Ukraine is not able to hold an election because it's under military law at the moment, and that's just a matter of fact.
Again, he can, as a prime minister or president, he can do whatever he wants.
He can't.
Okay,
He
we're going to just go back
sign an executive order and change the constitution.
Did he just say as a prime minister, he can do whatever he wants? No, it's not how it works. They have a constitution to uphold. He's trying to make him seem like a dictator.
Okay. Neither can the American president either, so hopefully there's better.
He could even do a ceremonial election to see where he actually stands with the people.
I think we call those opinion polls.
Yes, and they're very negative.
Firmly ahead in the
Again, but you would agree that a person that holds on to power without the election of the sovereign is pretty questionable.
No. They literally are getting attacked by Ukraine right now. I mean, by Russia right now. What?
No, not in those circumstances.
Okay, then we disagree.
No, okay.
Well, then we disagree. If somebody's getting attacked, they have to make sure that they act perfectly. Okay, cool, man. I didn't know you were such a cuck.
That's fine. But give me another reason why
They are the most corrupt country in Europe that never even met the most remote standards of joining NATO. Do you not know where a lot of this money is going?
I don't disagree that there is a problem.
We don't know where a lot of the money's going? What are you talking about? The money's going to help them fight. I don't know if you know this. There's a war over there. Is that fucking crazy?
Corruption, but the most corrupt country in Europe, are you sure about that?
I'd have to think. I'd have to double or triple think about that, but they're very corrupt.
Okay,
I mean,
so that's a little bit doubtful. It's not absolute.
Well, I mean, well,
There's
would you?
plenty of corruption around. I mean, let's face it. We are talking about comparison with some of the states you're doing business with in the Gulf.
Oh, of course, but we're not giving them money; they're giving us money. That's a difference, right? Saudi Arabia.
Oh, so it's fine.
Well, hold on a
It's
second.
morally acceptable to take money from corrupt people.
Well, hold on. First of all, as far as morally acceptable, you do what's best in the benefit of your country. And so, for example, we were allied with Russia during the Second World War, and I'm glad
Okay, and then they changed. No.
we were. And I would ask you,
Don't forget.
how much money is too much money to send to Ukraine? We're at 200 billion right now.
None. We should send infinite amounts of money to them. That's how much we should send. We have to stop pretending otherwise. It's kind of like silly when you're like, oh, well, we shouldn't have to give them. Costs you a Netflix subscription to keep Russia out of like fucking with us. So yeah, I think it's fine.
I don't think you have to send any more money to Ukraine.
We agree.
I think you have to agree to support them as a free country and perhaps sell them weapons. Like you're very happy to sell weapons to less free countries. And I think Europe will
Also, like most of the money that we get, most of the money that we give them, is through like giving them old shit that we don't even use anymore that costs a lot to get rid of. So it's like, okay.
pick up the slack, as we ought to. And I don't disagree with some of the comments about Europe not looking after its own security. I just don't get this approach, which was supposedly to end the war quickly, which now seems to be elongating it, and in doing so, throwing up a smokescreen of very variable facts, if they are facts at all, about how things occurred, which actually isn't helping things. And if people can't see that Putin is stalling, I'm just...
I agree with you. I think he might be stalling.
And therefore, and I think even your president has acknowledged the fact that he thinks he might be stalling.
Correct. So we don't have a disagreement there.
No, we don't. No,
We just
no,
have a
no,
disagreement about the efficacy of tactics, and we don't know. And I'm willing to say we could be wrong.
no. Oh, well,
Yo, you're willing to say you could be wrong? You're making an insane assumption about Ukraine being bad, but you could be wrong. Is that supposed to like make people feel good and confident about your perspective? Or?
well,
Of course, you could be wrong in life. I mean,
we could all be wrong. But actually bringing that war to an end consistently actually isn't going very well. And I would just suggest to you that whatever tactics have been used are perhaps not the best. And they are certainly inconsistent with what's going on in the Middle East and how America has been treating parties in the Middle East. But I've had enough of your time.
no, that's a fair contention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
What am I supposed to do with this goddamn thing?
And the final question that we've got time for today is from Sammy McDonald from St.
All right, love me some McDonald's.
John's College.
Good evening, Mr. Kirk. You've obviously devoted a lot of your life to electing, keeping in power Donald Trump, and you did so partly because you said Trump would put Americans first.
Dude, what the look at this guy. Is that Inch? This guy is definitely really smart. I'm not even kidding, dude. Guys that look like this have to be super smart.
And take them out of foreign conflicts. Should we see how that is going at the moment? Currently, Trump has just accepted a $400 million debt from Qatar, which we're assured is perfectly above board. Billions in arms are going to Saudi Arabia, which they're using to bomb and starve Yemeni children. Not sure how that's in the interest of the United States, but it might be in the interest of the $5.5 billion deal his failed sons are receiving. At the same time,
I mean, this kid's pretty based.
this great president of peace has greenlit mass killings not just in Yemen, but in Gaza, where he greenlit an invasion called Operation Gideon's Chariot with the express aim of wiping out the Gazan population. You promised to put America first. Haven't you and your ilk sold America out?
Damn, that was an intense question, and actually like super based. Holy fuck! Wow, I'd love to see how he responds to that. First of all, I don't actually care about kids once they're born. I only care about a fetus that doesn't have any actual humanity to it.
No.
Well, I'm glad you have great intellectual substance and can answer. Because it's all the culture wars for you, isn't it? The second someone actually tells you what you're doing, which is bread.
Can you calm down a little bit? Like, just
Can you calm down? Charlie's getting absolutely dog walked. Can you calm down, please?
a little bit. Pounding the table, you're all over the place. No. You want me to go piece by piece?
Yes.
Or would you like me to talk slower?
I think
Go, cuck. Let's hear it.
you can.
Number one, Donald Trump is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Joe Biden gave them
that's
armaments.
going well,
Great. So it's not going well at all. He's literally full of shit, and he's parroting a Russian talking points. He's a cuck.
isn't it?
Can,
It's going well.
can you not interrupt
It's
me?
going well.
I allowed you to talk uninterrupted.
You're famous for not interrupting.
I haven't interrupted a single person here today. Can I speak uninterrupted, actually?
Oh, fuck
He
my
is
mom's
convening
balls.
a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. I believe we will see an end to that war. Number two, he's actually talking to Iran and discouraging Israel to strike the interior of Iran and has stopped many other international countries to do the same.
Bro, he's literally giving them the okay to fucking He's literally giving them the okay to sit here and fucking... or he's giving Netanyahu the okay to do whatever the fuck he wants. What are you talking about? The hell?
Number 3, can you give him credit for...
He's talking about building hotels and fucking... or like he's actually talking about ethnically cleansing Palestinians by removing them from those lands and putting them somewhere, in his words, so much better. What the hell are you talking about?
Ending the Indian...
Which is obviously ridiculous.
In Pakistan war?
Both of them said he didn't do that.
Well, hold on a second.
Let's go back.
No, that's important.
Russia, Ukraine.
That's important.
Can I speak now?
Yes, but the Indian-Pakistan thing, you got to go deeper than that.
Let's go in order.
The reality is most people, myself included, don't really know what's going on in India, Pakistan. So, and Charlie knows that, and so he feels like he could be strong on that talking point by talking about it, because like that's going to be the first time you're really hearing about what's going on over there. Because I don't really know what's going on over there. It's not something that's like really actively like in our minds and in our perspectives. So, what the fuck? So he can say he feels really strong on it because of that.
Is a peace summit where the main person in question, Russia, doesn't show up, is that a success, Mr. Kirk?
I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure.
Not a success?
Well, again, these are ongoing negotiations, and it's a lot better than when your Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, went along...
Well, no, he didn't show up to the peace talk. I don't understand. What's the contention here?
...side our Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, to Istanbul.
He's debating. That's the problem. He's debating.
And unnecessarily blew up a potential Russian peace deal, which has resulted in hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians, one of the great unnecessary wars of the modern era. Donald Trump believes in conversation and police through strength. He has been president for well over 120 to 130 days.
And he's done nothing good. So.
And he has already ended a war between 2 nuclear conflicts of India and Pakistan. He has secured our own U.S.
Didn't that whole conflict start under him, though? So how would he have ended it? Right? Didn't he say no new wars, and then there was a new thing that happened immediately? No?
Southern border while we were being invaded by foreign powers. And thirdly, he is brokering a potential settlement with Iran that will prevent a major escalation in the Middle East.
Didn't he like shit on Joe Biden for them like lifting sanctions on Iran, though? I'm not understanding. Art of the deal when Donald Trump does it, but when anybody else does it, really stupid. What?
And finally, it is very difficult, but I believe they'll get it done, that we'll finally see an end to the Russian-Ukrainian war.
Yeah, I doubt that's going to happen. And it's not, and it is a war, but it's an occupancy, right? Like Russia is occupying Ukraine right now, because they're fucking the actual government is fucking bloodthirsty pieces of shit.
I'm just going to disregard the enormous lies you just put out there about.
India said he was not involved, and they ended amongst themselves. That's actually very funny.
Russia and Ukraine. But do you really think negotiations work if you cut off all your leverage and scream at one party in the Oval Office? Don't you think that has just emboldened Russia? Because look at the approach. Putin thinks so much of your glorious president, he can't even be asked to show up. You have elected, or help elect, somebody who is at best an idiot and at worst is deeply corrupt.
Okay, again, so Trump and Putin had a 2-hour phone call today. You'll acknowledge that's a good thing. The pursuit of peace...
Who says? How do we know it's a good thing? What would they talk about? We don't know. He won't show up in public deals because he doesn't respect Trump. So...
sometimes be a winding road, and it's a lot better than sending hundreds of billions of dollars further into the killing fields of eastern Ukraine, something that tragically both the UK government and the US government has been unnecessarily supporting for a couple of years. President Trump wants to see a brokerage, an ending of this settlement. I pray we can get it. It's very complicated because of the mess that Joe Biden left, which was an active kinetic war with a nuclear power sending American-made missiles into the interior of Russia. So President Trump has already ended a war. He's ended an invasion. He's only 130 days into this. And I believe, we do not know. At this point, we are merely speculating, which I think we should not spend our time doing that, because eventually one of us will be right. I believe we'll be right, and I believe we'll see an end to this war.
Can we just talk about 100 billions worth of weapons? Because you dodged my question on what was going on in the Middle East, where Trump has just signed enormous arms contracts with Saudi Arabia and with Qatar. And I noticed you ignored the fact that this might have had anything to do with the blatant corruption going on through the Trump coin and going on through giving the very competent sons of Donald Trump billions of investment from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. This is something that is directly embroiling Americans into conflict, but is importantly killing many innocent people. Those nations have been known to terrorize innocent civilian populations. So if you're coming to me and you're objecting to America selling weaponry, why are you defending shilling for the Saudis?
Well, hold on. One is sending weaponry, one is purchasing. Secondly, you do know that the biggest purchase that was announced was commercial airliner, 737, $100 billion. We've heard of Qatar Airways. They purchased $100 billion of commercial airways. You are right, there were some weapons contracts. But I guess the question is, would you rather have Saudi Arabia buy weapons from America or China?
I'd rather they not have American weaponry at cut price rates.
See, I disagree.
Let's talk about Qatar for a second.
Okay, fine.
Because you mentioned Qatar. You've been talking a lot about Hamas and the evils of Hamas. Can I ask you, who is the main funder of Hamas?
Well, the Palestine. Well, the West actually funds Hamas.
Which state?
Well, Iran funds.
No. Where are the Hamas leaders?
And also
where are the Hamas
Qatar
leaders?
funds Hamas.
Yes.
It is a combination
Is
of
this the state
international
we should
relief
have a
organizations.
400 million jet with the President of the United States on it?
Hold on. First of all, it was not given to him personally. I understand the optics of it, but it was not given to him personally. It was given to the U.S. government. And under that standard, no U.S. government should ever receive any gifts from any foreign countries whatsoever. It's not given to him personally and not a violation.
What?
Of the,
Why is he trying to transfer it to his personal library? He is.
Actually, okay, that, again, he's...
Well, yeah. My understanding was he was trying to transfer it to his personal library. I don't quite understand the specifics of it, but it seems like he's going to get it in some capacity if he leaves.
And now this is way too in the weeds. If you want to keep on going we can.
It's not in the weeds. It's a fundamental moral principle.
Okay, so under that fundamental moral principle then, can you acknowledge, though, that President Trump is getting more done in a less period of time than any president we've seen, while our prior president...
Getting more done? Like what? Like, it doesn't seem like he's getting anything actually done.
Did not even know what year he got elected. You understand the contrast here?
What aboutism again? I'm not a defender of Biden.
No, I'm not saying President Trump is far better than the predecessor.
You have to defend the person you spent millions to elect.
I will defend every day of someone who ends an invasion.
That's all you do.
Brings down the price of oil, who is revitalizing the American economy, who's broken...
Revitalizing it? He's fucking devastated it. What are you talking about? What?
Peace, who stopped the potential nuclear war, who is bringing Iran to the table and bringing Russia to the table, someone who does not want armed conflicts with the greatest powers of our time. I will defend that endlessly.
What are you
defending?
In a fantasy world of your own creation. So it's quite hard to engage
that, but then disprove it.
Let's check on how Trump is doing in terms of diplomacy. Look, with the war in the Middle East, do you think it was a defensible decision to tell the Israelis you wanted Trump Gaza to agree for Israel to invade the Gaza Strip and to continue to murder thousands of innocent children and civilians in a pointless war? Is that in America's interest? Is that in humanity's interest?
Well, first of all, you should know something about Trump. There's something, if you realize with Trump over the last 10 years, he is quite the social media user and uses hyperbolic language at times. But let me...
Yeah, at times. This his entire thing is using hyperbolic language to bully people.
Ask you, in the conflict of Israel versus Hamas, who's the good guy?
It's definitely more Israel than Hamas, but I mean... I don't know, man. They do not have any consideration for the civilians over there. Neither party does. It's disgusting. So,
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also there is no justification.
Are they equally?
There is no justification for the murder and mutilation.
The thing is that Charlie Kirk will sit here and he'll say, well, Russia and Ukraine are bad in different capacities, which they're not. Ukraine isn't bad. But he definitely, based on the language that he uses, he definitely like justifies. He's definitely like more on the side of Russia. He just knows that he has to say something different. Whereas like if you're sitting here and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to criticize, if you're going to sit here and you're going to criticize like Israel, you know that you're being proportionate. Like when you say both of them are bad in some capacity.
Of thousands of innocent people and children.
Let's
hear it. There is no justification, Mr. Kirk, for invading hospitals, for bombing innocent populations and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West's security.
You've made that point, but...
Well, it's not a point, it's a moral truth, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me...
Isn't that illegal to attack people disproportionately? You're saying that it's okay? What? What is this argument? This argument is that it's okay for them to do whatever they want in retaliation. How many people have died now? It was like 50,000 since the conflict has started. Like, you can't just do whatever you want. This is fucking preposterous. His argument is that since Israel got attacked, they can literally genocide the entirety of like the Gazan population. That's your argument? Oh, okay. Cool stuff, man. Gotta love that. Seems like it's in the 50,000s.
Let me finish. I let you talk. Israel,
at
its holiest day of the calendar year besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War. On Shabbat, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200 plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most cloistered urban environments on the planet, 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries of a Gazan child, they get no credit. When they drop leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a place where they are operating their military from, which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools.
The problem is he's not sitting here giving critical on Israel at all. Like he's justifying every bit of oppression that Israel is putting onto the people, like the people in Palestine. What happened to being pro-children? What happened to caring about kids? What happened about caring about kids? Yeah, I really care. We shouldn't have abortions. I care about children. What about kids in Gaza? their parents shouldn't have been oppressed by the Israeli government, and then so
and hospitals.
it's kind of their fault.
I'm sorry, the country where they were living in relative peace on October 6th, that all of a sudden we had a war and Hamas.
Relative peace is a tough take, bud. Okay, Gaza was still had terrible conditions. What are you talking about?
Started the war, and I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it, and you don't like it, and they.
Bud, this isn't. These aren't proportionate powers fighting. Israel could do a lot more to, fucking, they could do a lot more consideration, is what I'm trying to say.
They brought it upon themselves. The only operation and entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded.
I'm no defender of the terrible pogrom that was launched against Jews on that day. But the justification for the death of innocents cannot be an infinite cycle of bloodlust. It cannot be killing tens of thousands of innocent civilians with a war with no end in sight, people who were not complicit in those atrocities. It cannot be bombing hospitals which children use. It cannot be bombing hospitals in which cancer patients are dying and starving in there. The deaths that have been inflicted, nobody knows the true toll, but somewhere between 50 and 100,000 people lie dead under the rubble. And what is left for Gaza except for to continue to suffer under Hamas? Because it turns out Netanyahu's political strategy has not worked. It has entrenched Hamas within the territories. To be a Christian, I would have thought, Mr. Kirk, would never have involved suggesting that the price for an atrocity must be an infinite cycle of bloodlust, that innocent people and the young population must be killed to avenge some kind of providential Christ. How can you call yourself a Christian?
That is exactly what he insinuated.
Well, you just did.
I want to make sure we get our moral clarity straight before we proceed. No one likes what's happening in Gaza. No one with a heart or
Seems like you're okay with it.
a soul or a mind likes when kids die. But you must understand who started the conflict so that you can end it correctly. And until Hamas brokers an unconditional surrender, of which they are unwilling to do, they could release the hostages and drop their weapons and their lives would be spared. Instead, they are using children of Gaza as cannon fodder, financed by
You think their lives would be spared?
the Iranian mullahs.
I'm not saying that Hamas should have their lives spared. I'm just saying that you actually think that would happen.
And dragging the entire world into this conflict. So I don't even know what we're debating at this point, other than I believe that Israel, I believe the facts, Israel was unconditionally attacked on October 7th. They're responding in kind. And I would just ask you a
What does unconditionally attacked mean?
very simple moral question. How should Israel have responded?
I think that their initial response was fine, given the circumstances. But like what's going on now is unjustifiable.
Not with the blanket carpet bombing of the city, not with bombing hospitals. Of course, some kind of military operation might have been necessary, but not murder on this scale. There is no justification for what is happening with the enormous death toll that is being produced. I really cannot see how you come here and you have the gall to lecture us on Christian morality and then sit here and justify the murder of thousands of civilians. And is it working, Mr. Kirk? Is Hamas dismantled?
I've never said that.
You just did.
Well, no,
this is your whole
in
thing.
war, these are called casualties of a war.
We're going to need
okay?
to stop bringing this
Again,
Jesus Christ, this guy's such a callous piece of shit. Kind of a fucking Christian would sit here and justify and allow like kids to be killed. That's what's happening right now. He's a fucking freak. Holy fuck.
I'm not going to justify every military maneuver of a 100,000 person army. Instead, what I will do is I'll be clear that there is a good guy and there is a bad guy. I honestly...
Yes. This is why people like Charlie Kirk criticize modern movies, because it makes it complicated, because sometimes the bad guys have good motives. And so it makes him really confused and his brain hurts, so he doesn't really know what to say anymore. That's his whole thing.
The morality of a child.
Well, hold on. It's interesting you say that.
Interesting that you say that, because actually, God told me to be moral like this.
A child who knows that Israel is the good guy, Hamas is bad, has a lot more wisdom than a student like yourself at Cambridge University.
I will be glad that I will not have been somebody who has defended the genocide of the Palestinian people. And I think you will have to reckon one day that you have reckoned with...
Interesting. I want to close on this. So
this kid's based. Who the fuck is this kid? This kid is fucking based as hell. Holy fuck. Jesus Christ. This is the type of advocation Hassan Parker wishes he could do, man. This kid's impressive. It's fucking insane.
Can you tell me what African country is currently ongoing a civil war?
Believe it or not, I know about Sudan.
Okay, good. How about what Southeast Asian country has...
I'm assuming what he's going to do is he's going to say, hey, what about these other countries? Like, you don't know about these. Why do you care so much about this? Does it have to do with the Jews? Blah, blah, blah. You know, this kid is not saying anything that's dog whistling that, like, Israel or Israeli people are bad or deserve to die or anything. This is just a kid that's like, Palestinian children are being fucking decimated. He even said here, he's like, they have a right to respond in some capacity. So like, this kid is fucking balanced. He knows what the fuck he's talking about, dude. He's just saying that it's terrible what's happening. And as somebody who claims to be a fucking Christian, Charlie Kirk, you'd think that you'd be more sensitive of children being fucking murdered in Palestine. You know, they're not responsible for what's happening.
And ethnic cleansing going on right
I'm
now.
not.
Good. And you have strong opinions on both sides?
Unlike you, I take an effort to be informed about foreign policy and to come to conclusions. You are a culture warrior. I believe when everything is done, Mr. Kirk, people will see you and the people you supported as corrupt, as selling the country out to the lowest bidder, and of doing irreparable damage to a country I'm sure we all deep down love.
The difference-
I think you will have to reckon with that.
Based, dude.
Mr. Kirk, is when
This kid's based as fuck. That kid just fucking walked off. He annihilated Charlie. Oh my god. Charlie's strategy of coming on and talking to uneducated college students just backfired on him so drastically that the last kid came on and destroyed him to a standing ovation. What a beautiful moment. Holy fuck. Got cooked. That was crazy. He's not even responding. He's fucking done. Look at him.
the difference is when we get our way, we'll still have a country, and your country will be a third world hellhole.
Just to be clear, Charlie Kirk, this is Charlie Kirk's video, and he cut it off the second he said something because nobody cheered for him. That's why he did it.